15 seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
To infinity and beyond.
He's live. He's nationwide. This is the Zach Gelb Show. Here's your host, Zach Gelb.
Live from the palatial yet not overly ostentatious studios of the Infinity Sports Network here in beautiful New York City, sitting on top of the 10th floor of 345 Hudson Street. Welcome on into a Football Friday edition of the Zach Gelb Show across all of our local Infinity Sports Network affiliates, Sirius XM Channel 375, the free Odyssey app, and as always, streaming live on YouTube. 888-710-4ISN is the number to jump on in. That's 888-710-4476. You could always get at me on Instagram, where I'm straight flexing, or via the good old cesspool of Twitter, at Zach Gelb. That's ZACHGELB. I think we're all in a pretty good mood today. I had a wonderful lunch with former first-round pick and Dominique Easley. You know, he was in town. He said, hit me up. We want to go do lunch and catch up a bit. So we had Minetta Tavern. So I had a big fat burger at about 1 p.m. Eastern time, then waddled my way into the studio. And I look around our show crew today. Stu looks like he's smiling, because he got Ashton Jeanty, which was expected, then became unexpected, then was back to being expected. And Samter, there could be a line of thinking with his Jets. It's almost impossible to remember all the teams that Samter roots for, but I think he's a Jet fan. There could be a line of thinking of maybe go with Tyler Warren, but they end up going with Armin Membu, and you can't be that upset. And then my football team, alligator's my favorite food. I walked into the restaurant today and I go, you don't have alligator burgers? You don't got a side of alligator? Because I'm all in with Mr. Alligator Arms and Will Campbell going to the New England Patriots. So I think our teams did well. There are some teams that did better. There are a lot of teams that did worse. We will break it down all throughout the next 3 hours as we do say goodbye to you today at 6 p.m. Eastern, 3 p.m. Pacific time. Marc Ross is going to join us coming up at 4:20 p.m. Eastern time today, 1:20 p.m. Pacific. Okay, let's start out with the biggest story of the night. And can I have a critique of people criticizing the draft coverage real quickly, if that makes sense? If your take after last night is, enough of Mel Kiper sucking up to Shedeur Sanders, or why did ESPN spend 4 or 5 hours talking about Shedeur Sanders? I understand it could have been a little bit of an overload. I understand it could be a little Shedeur Sanders fatigue. But what else did you want them to talk about? Because if you had a brain, if you had a pulse, if you could understand the feel of the moment and the sexiness of this draft, what was the biggest story going into draft night? What was the thing that we had no clue what to expect? It was where the heck Shedeur Sanders was going to go. And yes, there was a little excitement right at the top of the draft. We knew that Cam Ward was going number 1 to the Tennessee Titans. We had it leak out a little bit. I'll give credit to Peter Schrager. I'll give credit to Diana Rossini. They had all the information on the Browns potentially trading out of the number 2 spot. I sat here and I was like, is this just smoke? Is there actually going to be a fire? What's going to happen? And the Jaguars gave up a haul to go get Travis Hunter. And then the Cleveland Browns did fall back all the way to 5. Cleveland does pick today to kick off the second round at 33 and 36. That could be a Shedeur Sanders destination. More on that in just a second. But they did get Mason Graham, who I thought was the 3rd best player in the draft. They got Mason Graham at 5. So those were the fireworks. That was the explosive stuff for the draft. The big moment, if you had to do a non-Shedeur Sanders story, was obviously the Jaguars-Browns trade. With that being said, the biggest story by far and away from this draft is that Shedeur Sanders didn't go in the first round. Like, think about where we were a month ago. Legitimate conversations. Hey, is Shedeur Sanders going to be the second overall pick? Then, is Shedeur Sanders going to be the third overall pick? Then, even if the Browns and Giants say no, Stu was getting ready to get a Shedeur Sanders jersey at 6. Then it was, the Browns aren't going to take him. The Giants aren't going to take him. The Raiders aren't going to take him. Maybe the Saints, right? At 9. That's probably the farthest he's going to go. Oh, nope, not going to be the Saints. Then, Pittsburgh, right? Are they really going to take Aaron Rodgers' word? They're going to take that for what it's worth. They're going to actually believe that Aaron Rodgers is a done deal. And even so, wouldn't you rather get potentially your next franchise quarterback at 21 when he is free falling to you? When he is going right there to you? But even if the Steelers are going to take him at 21, maybe the Giants, maybe the Browns would come back up and usurp the Steelers. Well, 21 picks did come and go, and Shedeur Sanders didn't get drafted. All right, by the end of 32, he's got to go, right? The Giants make a trade. Is this Shedeur Sanders? Survey says, ends up being Jackson Dart. Think about that. We had 2 quarterbacks go in the first round last night. That's not surprising. The 2 quarterbacks, though, being Cam Ward and Jackson Dart, that is surprising. Shedeur Sanders, even though I said it yesterday, and I wasn't right on it, but I did preface it by saying I feel like he's fallen out of the first round, but I also believe that the Steelers take him at 21. I thought Mike Tomlin was going to do it. I really did. But he fell out of the first round. And I'm not going to sit here and act like I'm not surprised, I'm not stunned, I'm not shocked that Shedeur Sanders, who at one time was legitimately debated on if he's the best quarterback in this draft class, and could he be potentially number 1 overall pick, to then, he could be the number 2 overall pick. Then he could be 3, then he could be 6, then he could be 9, then he could be 21. We're sitting here through the first 32 picks of the draft, and Shedeur Sanders didn't go. So my question is, what do you make of that? Number 1, I think a lot of the analysis is ridiculous. I don't understand the character concerns with Shedeur Sanders. Shedeur Sanders never got in trouble off the field. Now, if you're going to say the character concerns are Deion Sanders, Coach Prime is his father, so then there's a lot of coaches who have some insecurities that if Shedeur is getting drafted, if he goes to a bad team, the moment that team doesn't play well, then they're going to say, get rid of the coach, whether it's Kevin Stefanski, get rid of Brian Daboll, get rid of Kellen Moore, get rid of whoever the coach may be, and bring in Coach Prime. Like, the idea that Shedeur Sanders gives a terrible interview, I just don't buy it. I don't. The idea that Shedeur Sanders, you can't draft him because he's brash and arrogant, why is that a problem? 99.9% of quarterbacks that end up succeeding have an overwhelming amount of confidence. They walk around like they are top dog because they are the top dog. And they'll let you know it. So, Shedeur Sanders not going in the first round. Maybe I'll channel my inner Mel Kiper here. I think it's ridiculous. I think it's absurd. And I'm not telling you Shedeur is going to be a top 5 quarterback in the league. I'm not. But he had a garbage offensive line at Colorado. He did a good job extending the play. Sometimes he did hold on to the ball way too long. And there were some completions that he had in college that, let's be real, they will get intercepted in the NFL. But Shedeur Sanders is a good pocket passing quarterback. Shedeur Sanders has good timing. Shedeur Sanders has good accuracy. And I think he could be a good quarterback in the NFL. So this idea that he wasn't worthy of going in the first 32 picks of the draft, I think people got scared off of just things that are, I don't want to say out of Shedeur Sanders' control. But you know what? It's almost like they got scared off of Coach Prime. And quite frankly, I never really believed in any of that stuff. But this guy doesn't go in the first 32 picks of the draft. Like, what college football were we watching last year? What college football were you watching? I know he's going up against the SEC, where Jackson Dart should be the second quarterback in this draft. Quite frankly, if I was a team, let's say you can't get Cam Ward, and you had to trade back up, like how the Giants did, to go get a quarterback, I would have taken 2 quarterbacks before I would have taken Jackson Dart easily, without hesitation. One would be Shedeur Sanders, and the other would have been Jalen Milroe. So now we get into who will regret passing on Shedeur. Right now, I think there's two obvious teams. I think the Giants made a mistake passing on Shedeur Sanders last night. Now, I love the first selection at 3. The Giants at 3 getting Abdul Carter, I think they got the best player in the draft. Let me be abundantly clear on that. But you know what the Giants did? The Giants sat down at a good New York City restaurant. The appetizers came out. The appetizer was Abdul Carter. And it's the greatest appetizer in the world. And then you're sitting down and the appetizers finish. You're in a good mood. You're having a drink. You're waiting for the main course. And as you're waiting for the main course to come on out, you see a rat run out of the kitchen. And that's what I equate to the Giants doing, trading back up and taking Jackson Dart. To me, it ruined their first round. It got off to such a great start. I was ready for the filet mignon. I was ready for the dessert, maybe a chocolate chip cookie with the scoop of ice cream. I was ready to have a great meal. And if they would have just traded up and taken Shedeur Sanders, or even Jalen Milroe, even though I much rather take Shedeur Sanders with that pick, I would have praised the Giants. I would have said the Giants are the biggest winner in the draft. And hey, is there a chance Joe Shane and Brian Daboll get it right with Jackson Dart? Yes. But I'm not one of these talk show hosts that don't watch college football. I watch a ton of college football. I watched a ton of Ole Miss this year. And I never looked at Jackson Dart and thought to myself, wow, that's a franchise quarterback. Wow, that's a guy that should be a first-round pick in the NFL draft. Go look at the end up against Florida. Go look how they won that game up against Georgia. It was because of their defense. So I was never thoroughly impressed with Jackson Dart. And I think he's a product of Lane Kiffin's system. And he doesn't come off to me as someone that's going to turn around this terrible dreck of a franchise that the New York Giants have become. I would have much rather placed my eggs in the basket of one Shedeur Sanders. And if you tell me, they just didn't want Shedeur Sanders, then I would have taken the riskier quarterback, the higher ceiling quarterback in a Jalen Milroe, where you know he could run the crap out of the football. He has a bazooka of an arm, but can he find the middle ground in his game? Because as I've told you 9,000 times, Jalen Milroe, it's either he plays great or he plays horribly. So that's what the Giants did. They had the appetizer in Abdul Carter. It was delicious. Then you're waiting for the main course. The main course taking a while coming out, and you saw a rat scurry right out of the kitchen. And that's Jackson Dart. Nothing but the best to him. I hope he succeeds. I just got to give you my opinion. And I don't believe Jackson Dart was the second best quarterback in this draft class. And it's inconceivable to me that the Giants would prefer Jackson Dart over Shedeur Sanders. I think another team that messed up last night is the Pittsburgh Steelers. So what? You're going to bring in Aaron Rodgers now. And it would really be something if Aaron Rodgers doesn't go there now and he retires. But you're going to go with Aaron Rodgers. I'm assuming George Pickens is going to be there, even though there's been some pushback. You have DK Metcalf. I would expect your defense to bounce back. You no longer have Najee Harris, and your offensive line is still a question mark. So don't get me wrong. You have the big defensive tackle, Derek Harmon, out of Oregon. I can't crush that pick. But if you're the Steelers, and you have a guy that we legitimately talked about, even if he was never going at 1, 2, or 3, but those are legitimate conversations, you're going to pass up on a quarterback there at 21 when supposedly, and I guess it wasn't true, that Mike Tomlin was a big fan of Shedeur Sanders. It's why the Steelers have become the Steelers. They're not your grandfather's Steelers anymore, folks. They're not. This Pittsburgh Steelers organization, we used to associate them with winning Super Bowls. Heck, they're tied for the most Super Bowl championships in the history of the league. They haven't won a damn playoff game since the 2016 season. So in the Shedeur Sanders sweepstakes, right? At 2, at 3, and I know the Browns eventually traded back. I understand passing on Shedeur there. I could even come around to that when the Browns and Giants did it with their first selections. The Raiders at 6, okay, you like Ashton Jeanty, that's fine. You now look at the Saints at 9. You wanted to go with an offensive lineman, okay. But the Steelers passing on Shedeur at 21 makes no damn sense. The Giants trading back up to 25 and passing on Shedeur Sanders makes no damn sense. And now we're going to see those other teams that we mentioned, the Browns, the Raiders, and the Saints, will they make that same mistake twice? And for the Browns, maybe even 3 times. Because Cleveland has the 33rd pick, the 36th pick tonight. The Saints have the 40th pick, and the Raiders are picking before them at 37. Will any of those teams go move on up? Or actually, I don't have to move on up. Like, if you're the Browns and you want him, you get him. But after that, then the other teams can move up. Or could you stay put? And will you take Shedeur Sanders if he's there? That's my question. Where is Shedeur Sanders going to go tonight? Alrighty, it does tie in with our next topic. Browns, Jaguars. I'll give you my trade reaction and what the Browns could do tonight as they are picking at 33 and 36. And they also got an additional first-round pick for next year from the Jacksonville Jaguars, as the Jags did trade up to 2 to go get Travis Hunter. Will Cleveland take Shedeur Sanders tonight? Should they? Or should they wait until next year to go make their call and really plant the flag in the ground? Can you do that in Ohio? It's always a controversial subject. Now they're relying on a Michigan man on that defensive line, by the way. But will they then put the flag in the ground next year on a quarterback potentially in the NFL draft? We're talking NFL draft. You want to chime on in? 888-710-4ISN, 888-710-4476. Browns, Jaguars talk next.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. 1 minute remaining. "45 seconds remaining. "30 seconds remaining. "15 seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
You're listening to the Zach Gelb Show on the Infinity Sports Network.
Alrighty, so there was so much speculation last night. Like an hour and a half before the draft started, right as we were kind of getting off the air, some of this stuff really started to leak out, that there was a growing amount of buzz on the possibility of the Browns trading the pick. And then right as we were getting off the air, I remember I read something where it's like, oh, the Jaguars are going to be aggressive tonight. And when I read that, I go, oh, that probably means Ashton Jeanty, right? Well, no. Because remember, Jeanty was talked about the last 48 hours leading up to the draft, too. And that surprised a lot of people, which made Stu thinking he wasn't going to get his guy, Ashton Jeanty, who eventually got. It was the Jaguars trading all the way up to 2 to go get Travis Hunter. Now, before the deal came on out, which it was great television, by the way, you went right from Cam Ward getting drafted to, congratulations to Cam Ward, but we got breaking news. Here's Adam Schefter. And Adam Schefter gave the details of the trade. I'll ask this question, though. Stu, as you were getting ready for the draft, did you actually believe that this deal was going to go down? When we got off the air, because that was the last thing I asked before we got off the air yesterday, and we were resounding, no, no, no. The Jaguars weren't moving up to 2. We're not buying the Browns, moving off of it. And I remember even saying, oh, like I think I said, if this is Alabama Ole Miss playing, like we're all picking Alabama as the college game day graphic. Hopefully it's not Ole Miss that ends up being the case. Did you think that this was actually going to go down once we got off the air until the draft started?
I did not. I was kind of skeptical of it happening. I thought the Browns were going to keep the pick and then draft Travis Hunter.
Samter, were you buying it when we were 30 minutes, 20 minutes out from the draft and the first pick goes? Were you buying that the Jaguars were going to move up from 5 to 2? Were you actually believing that was going to go on down?
Yeah, there was a lot of smoke around that between Diana Rossini's report earlier in the day and then just one thing after another that just kind of made it feel feasible. So, yeah, it made sense.
So when the draft started, I'll be honest, going into the draft, like 30 minutes before I go, this is going to happen. Then when the draft started and we had no news and everyone knew that Cam Ward was going to be the number 1 overall pick, I'm like, I think this is just a bunch of smoke. And it's going to blow right over, and that's going to be it. And then, boom, you get Adam Schefter. The Browns are trading the number 2 overall pick, a 4th-round pick, number 104, and a 6th-round pick, number 200, to the Jaguars. The Jaguars are trading pick number 5, which ended up being Mason Graham, a 2nd-round pick, number 36, which we'll see get called early tonight, a 4th-round pick, number 126, and their 2026 first-round pick to the Browns. So when that happened, and you see that graphic, not how it aged today and what you may think about it today, but in the moment, Stu, your reaction to that deal was what?
Immediate reaction was Jaguars gave up way too much.
Okay. Samter, your immediate reaction was what?
100%. Browns got a huge deal to move back 2 picks. They got a 2nd and an extra 1st. It was, to me, brilliant by the Browns.
So my reaction was I didn't like it. My first reaction was I did not like the Cleveland Browns passing up on a generational talent, even though I think Travis Hunter is the 2nd best player in this draft and Mason Graham was 3. I don't think anyone's calling Mason Graham generational. We were calling Travis Hunter generational. and you go from 2 to 5, I'm sitting there and I'm thinking to myself, oh, Cleveland's passing on another big-time talent. That's what I'm thinking. And it was Dimitroff, right, the other day who even talked about moving up to go get Julio Jones. I'm pretty sure they made that deal with the Cleveland Browns. And that's what I'm sitting there thinking. But as the draft did go on, and there was a guy by the name of Shedeur Sanders that is still on the board. And when the first round did come and go, and I'm sitting there, I went from I didn't like it to I'm indifferent about it to let me wait until the draft is over. I was sitting there, and I was doing instant reaction videos. I pumped out a bunch of them. I absolutely hated the Chicago Bears passing on Tyler Warren at 10. Hated it. Was incensed about it. I gave you other commentary throughout the night, with some other picks as well. I gave some commentary on the Jaguars and the Browns, but it was really the uncertainty of the Browns. And I think even the video that I came on out and said was, I need to see what they do with their quarterback. But the big question here, and what I'm fascinated to see, will the Cleveland Browns take a quarterback within their first 2 picks? Will they trade back up to get one? And I mean the first 2 rounds of picks because they got an additional second-round pick. Or are they stockpiling a future asset in a first-round pick where, let's be real, the Jaguars could be terrible this year. The Jaguars could also be a middle-of-the-road team and be like 8 or 9 wins. Like, I think their floor is 5, their ceiling is 10. That's a pretty big range, especially when it gets to the NFL draft. I think 10's the most optimistic that optimistic could be. So I'm not anticipating that pick is definitely going to be in the top 5 next year. But if, let's say, who the Browns, by the way, on their own first-round pick could have the number 1 slot. Let's say next year they're picking at 2 or 3. Having that extra first-round pick, which could be in the top 15, could be used as ammunition if there's a team at 1 that wants to trade up, or if next year it turns out to be the Caleb Williams, the Jaden Daniels, the Drake May, where you just see quarterbacks go boom, boom, boom. You get a quarterback early in the first 3 and then 1 later. But I still thought to myself, and I still think this right now, I'm uncertain if they're going to take a quarterback tonight or not. I really am. But if this is the plan with how many resources you lost going for that bum in Deshaun Watson, let's be real. I don't usually like to call guys bums. Deshaun Watson is a bum. All right? I have no respect for that guy. But with all the resources they gave up for Deshaun Watson, remember we used to talk about the Browns having like a really good roster? Well, they have to fix that roster now. So you were able to keep Myles Garrett. You drafted Mason Graham. Mason Graham, I think, is the 3rd best player in the draft. I am so fascinated by what's going to happen tonight at 33 and 36. Because, for example, could you see the Cleveland Browns tonight at 33 go Henderson, the Ohio State running back, and then on the other side go at 36 Will Johnson, the corner? Or could they go Henderson at running back and take the Missouri wide receiver, right? There's like so many non-things that you could do. Mike Green, if you want to go another edge rusher, the guy out of Marshall. Could you go build up the roster right now and build back up the roster and get 3 picks in the first 36 that people be like, yeah, check, and check. I like them. Even though it means that you didn't get Travis Hunter and you get an additional first-round pick next year with your first-round pick that you have. I'd be fine with that. I would be okay with that. But if I'm running the Cleveland Browns, I'm not assuming that you're getting a quarterback next year. Like, you may have to take one. But right now, if people tell me Nussmeier and Arch Manning, right, and all these other quarterbacks, this time last year, who were we talking about being the number 1 quarterback in this draft class? Carson Beck. Carson Beck's not even still at Georgia. He transferred to Miami and let a Cavender get away. All right? So you don't know how this is going to play out. And if the idea is that, the Browns are setting themselves up to tank and the Browns are going to get Arch Manning, how many times have we talked about Arch Manning has not been a full starter in college yet, and there's not even a guarantee that he's going to enter the 2026 draft? So if I'm Andrew Berry tonight, this is what I would do. I got Mason Graham. I got future assets. I got future resources. At 33 today, I'm taking Shedeur Sanders. You let 34 and 35 play on out, and then you take the best non-quarterback available, obviously because you took Shedeur Sanders. So you would have Mason Graham, Shedeur Sanders, and then maybe Green, maybe Johnson, maybe Henderson, Burden. Like, there's a lot of names out there that you could get. And if those are the first 3 picks that you make in the first 36 picks, Man, that would be a good draft for the Cleveland Browns. You know what this is? And people hate this on the radio because you want me to give a take, right? You want me to be all in one way or all out the other way. I think this is a win-win deal. And I know people are going to sit there and they're going to criticize the Jacksonville Jaguars, just like how people sat there and criticized the Houston Texans for giving up future assets to go get Will Anderson Jr., which I loved the trade at the time. You got to eventually call your shot. You need an identity in that organization. The Texans found their identity. They also got the quarterback at pick 2. Then they got Will Anderson. So they got the face of their franchise on the offensive side of the ball and defensive side of the ball. The Jaguars right now are kind of an irrelevant, sad franchise. You have Trevor Lawrence, you paid him, but he's still a question mark. You have Brian Thomas Jr. at a breakout rookie season and a sensational rookie season. He's a piece to work with. I don't know if Travis Etienne is in your long-term plans, but he's been solid in the NFL. You got Josh Hines-Allen, who's good. You got Trayvon Walker, not number 1 good, but he's solid. You need a little bit more excitement. You needed someone to care about your franchise. You needed a star. And Travis Hunter has the potential to be a two-way star in this league. And you know what? James Gladstone and Liam Cohen, they're different. They're young. I think they're going to let this guy play both ways as much as possible in the NFL world. So I kind of like both moves. I like the Jaguars basically putting their brass cojones on the table and doing something that's unconventional. Jacksonville needs to do something that's unconventional because what they've done for the majority of their franchise's existence, and I know they made 2 AFC championship games, but most of the times we're talking about the Jaguars early in the draft, hiring a new head coach, hiring a new GM. So I respect this move both ways. For the Jaguars, you called your shot. For the Jaguars, you're trying to become relevant. For the Jaguars, you're trying to get the Shohei Ohtani of the NFL. And then for the Cleveland Browns, you get Mason Graham, who's the 3rd best player in the draft, in my opinion, and now you create intrigue at 33 and 36. I would take Shedeur, and then I would take another player that is obviously not a quarterback at 36 to beef up your team. That's what I would do, and that would be a heck of a first 3 picks in the first 36 picks of the draft. But if you don't take a quarterback, then you got 2 first-round picks for next year, and you're building back up that roster, which that roster was gutted because Deshaun Watson didn't work, and a lot of your players that were good are now older and off the team. So it's rare in sports that you look at something, and I think people want you to be like, this is right, that's wrong, winner, loser, boom, that's over. I wake up today, and I talk today about this move for the Browns and the Jaguars, and I kind of think it's a win-win. 888-710-4ISN, 888-710-4476. Let's go to Kevin in San Antonio next up on the Zach Gelb Show. Kevin, what's happening, my man?
And nothing much, man. This draft choice, this draft is a jeopardy. It's like Jeopardy. We don't know who is going, like Shedeur Sanders going to go to. We don't know. You need to play that music, Zach. My boy, you need to play that music when Shedeur gets drafted. And, you know, I think that my point of view, I think the Jacksonville Jaguars have sacrificed. You know, you got to make a sacrifice in the draft in order to get better.
Mm-hmm. And you know what?
And,
now there's no more excuses for Trevor Lawrence. You got Brian Thomas last year. You got Travis Hunter now who could play both ways. Travis Etienne, your college buddy, still on that team. It's time for Trevor Lawrence to be healthy. It's time for Trevor Lawrence to start playing better. And it's time for Trevor Lawrence to start looking like the quarterback that we all touted for all those years. Appreciate the phone call as always, Kev. Let's go to Chris in California. Chris, what do you got cooking for me?
Hey, Zach. Hey, Cleveland needs to go and get Jordan
Let
Addison.
me guess.
Hey,
wait.
Wait,
you
ahead.
think they should take a quarterback, the Browns?
No.
Oh.
Hey, Shedeur Sanders should go to the New York Jets. That's where he should go.
Yeah, with Justin Fields being there, I wouldn't be opposed to that because Justin Fields isn't a definite gonna-work quarterback. I would not be opposed to that. Just like I think the Browns not having a definite bona fide quarterback on the roster should also
now
draft
you're
a
talking
quarterback.
fairly. There we go. Now you're talking some sense. Now you're talking completely fair now.
What,
now
that the Browns should take Shedeur Sanders or Jalen Milroe?
No.
That's
Don't
what I
mix
just
up my
said.
words. No, you said that the Jets should go for Shedeur Sanders.
Yeah, but then what did I follow it with? I said the Justin Fields is a
Maybe
question mark.
add some
Justin,
fairness to your show.
hold on. I just gave you fairness. I said Justin Fields is a question mark, so I have no problem in taking a Shedeur Sanders if the Jets are there at 42. Just like how. Hold on, Chris. Let me finish the sentence. Now you be fair. All right, you be fair. You want me to be fair. Now I want you to be fair. Just like how Joe Flacco at his age and Kenny Pickett where he's at right now is not a guarantee. So therefore, I would also consider, and I would prefer the Browns to take Shedeur Sanders at 33. That's fair.
Yeah, no, that's not fair.
Why not?
We're not talking
Well,
about...
now you're being unfair because you only think Justin Fields. You think
somebody
Justin
else.
Fields sucks, and you think
Justin
Kenny
Fields-
Pickett's great. You're not being fair.
Look at the
You be fair.
records.
You be fair,
Look at
Chris.
the-
Be
Look at
fair.
the records. What did Justin Fields do with Cleveland for 3 years? Nothing.
What has Kenny Pickett done in the NFL?
Kenny Pickett
Nothing.
he didn't have two. He hasn't had
Nothing.
2 full seasons. He hasn't had 2 full seasons with Pittsburgh. Not 2 full seasons with Pittsburgh. He was starting his rookie year in week 4, and then he got hurt his sophomore season in week 12. He hasn't had a fair opportunity, and he had to go behind Jalen Hurts by a biased franchise, very biased. Give Kenny Pickett a fair shot. Go get Jordan Addison.
Jordan, you're not even making any sense anymore, Chris. You're just rambling. You're just rambling. And you're saying stupid things. All right? Like, enough. I have let you call into this show over and over and over again. And if you think that Kenny Pickett has been more successful than Justin Fields so far, you're out of your mind. Justin Fields needs to improve as a thrower of the football. Justin Fields has 45 touchdowns to 31 interceptions. Not great. He also had one season ran for 1,143 yards and also had another 8 touchdowns. Now, I don't want to dog Kenny Pickett this way. I don't, because I happen to like Kenny Pickett the person. But Chris is making me say mean things about him. Kenny Pickett has 15 touchdowns and 14 interceptions in his career. Okay? And 5 rushing touchdowns, so we'll give him those as well. But if you're calling in and saying the Jets, and I knew there was going to be some stupid Kenny Pickett point here, but if you're calling in and saying, oh, the Jets need to draft Shedeur Sanders, and you're annoyed that you're saying I'm being unfair, and then when I say, oh, the Browns don't have a definite answer at quarterback, so therefore they should draft Shedeur Sanders as well, oh, then you're being unfair? Come on, Chris. Like, I understand there's a commitment to your bit, and there's a commitment to your delusion, but like, dude, you're on an island right now. On an island. All right? He probably like gets off to Kenny Pickett throwing an incompletion in the Super Bowl, for being honest. It is the Zach Gelb Show on the Infinity Sports Network. We will talk about outside the top 10 when we come on back. I have a bunch of picks outside of the top 10 in the NFL draft that I loved last night. Just in front of me, I marked down 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 7 picks outside of the top 10 that I love. Update time first. Here's Zach.
Infinity Sports Network Sports Flash.
3 Michigan players went in the top 13 last night in the first round of the NFL draft. The guy that might have been the highest rated and the best of the bunch before the season is still on the board. The draft continues tonight in Green Bay with the second and third rounds, and corner Will Johnson is still waiting for his name to be called. The 2-time All-America was injured this year and is also last night his fall, reportedly due to concerns over an knee injury. Also undrafted in the first round was Colorado quarterback Shedeur Sanders. The Browns have the first pick in the second round this evening. The Celtics have won the first 2 games against the Magic, getting little from Jason Tatum, and the defending champs could be without their star for Game 3 tonight in Orlando. He remains doubtful with a bruised wrist, while the Bucks, down 2-0 to Indiana, host the Pacers this evening, while the Lakers and Timberwolves move to Minnesota with that series even at 1. Elijah Arenas is out of a medically induced coma and is making progress, according to family members. The 18-year-old son of former NBA star Gilbert Arenas was involved in a single car accident yesterday. At Wrigley this afternoon, rain has held up the start of the Cubs and the Phillies. I'm Rich Hacker.
The Infinity Sports Network is on your smart speaker. All you have to say is play Infinity Sports Network.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. Forty-five seconds remaining. Thirty seconds remaining. Fifteen seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
You're listening to the Zach Gelb Show on the Infinity Sports Network.
I'm just watching something during the break, and it's actually a genius idea. Stadium Live, they had these two content creators, that they were streaming the draft. And whenever the player's name was called, they did an over-under on how long it would take from that player to walk out of the green room and dap up the commissioner. So Travis Hunter, his over-under was 60 seconds. He hit the over last night. But it's funny because he starts to speed up a little bit, and the guy that had the over starts losing his mind. Like, hug people! Talk to people! Give him the wrong hat! It's a very good video. I enjoyed watching that during the break. It's time to Ask the Pros, where you, the listener, gets to ask us a question, brought to you by O'Reilly Auto Parts. Simply tweet your question at INFSportsNet or at Zach Gelb using the hashtag #AskThePros. Be listening later in the show, we might answer your question. Think O'Reilly Auto Parts for all your car care needs. Get guaranteed low prices and excellent customer service from the professional parts people at O'Reilly Auto Parts. I'm going to do this right now. So the top 10 last night was Cam Ward to Tennessee. Jacksonville took Travis Hunter trading up. I also love how ESPN lists this for the NFL, where for the NBA, until it becomes official, you have the guy on the podium with the wrong hat in a trade, and it's just an entire mess that we go through each and every year for the NBA draft. Abdul Carter goes 3 to the Giants. My guy Will Campbell goes 4 to the New England Patriots. Mason Graham goes to the Cleveland Browns at 5. Stu, Ashton Jeanty at 6. You got to be happy, right? You got your guy?
Thrilled. Absolutely elated.
And if Shedeur is there tonight, would you be disappointed if they passed on him?
I'd be disappointed, but I also won't be surprised at this point.
So you're not... Where do you think Shedeur is going? Do we think Shedeur is going to the Cleveland Browns tonight with the 33rd pick? Stu?
I feel like maybe not either. I feel like he might slip a little more, and it might be someone like the Rams or... I don't know. I honestly don't know what to think at this point.
Samter?
I'll say Rams.
Where do you think Shedeur Sanders is going, Samter?
I think it makes the most sense for the Browns to take him with one of these 2 second-round picks, but like Stu said, I have a feeling that they're just not that into him. I think if they were into him, they would have traded back up into the first round to get him so they could have secured that 5th-year option, kind of like what the Ravens did with Lamar Jackson a few years ago. So I feel like if they liked him, they would have moved up a pick or 2, given up like a 5th or 6th to move up 1 or 2 picks with the Chiefs or the Eagles or something and gotten that 5th-year option. So I don't think they're taking him.
So I asked Joe Thomas this, and he said, do you anticipate them drafting Shedeur tonight? Remember, he's announcing the Browns pick. Now, I don't know if he didn't know if it was 33 or 36 or both. And I did remind him, do a pass block set, say this is for Zach, do the here we go Brownies, here we go. And then you announce the pick. So we'll be waiting on Joe Thomas, who says he's going to shout us out tonight at the NFL draft. I don't think it's going to actually happen, but he said it now twice. So I'm just going off the information. But our pal Joe Thomas said when it comes to Shedeur Sanders and the Browns at 33, yeah, I wouldn't be shocked if they take him because now that you're in the second round, you have the opportunity to draft the project quarterback and there's no mandate to start him. So I'll push back on this just a little bit. There's probably no mandate to start him if, let's say, you take him 2 in the draft. But the moment that Chris in California is not going to like this, the moment Kenny Pickett doesn't play well in the preseason, or he somehow starts week 1 and he throws in an interception, or Joe Flacco's the guy who's won a Super Bowl MVP, like he's going to be the starter in Cleveland, he doesn't play well, or he shows his age, they're going to be calling for Shedeur. So, could you have weathered that storm for a month potentially? But let's also be real. Shedeur Sanders is a NFL-ready quarterback. You may not think that he'll be great, but I don't think this is a guy that is a project that you need to have sit there for 2-3 years. I think he could start a game come September in the NFL. I do. But anyway, when you had this whole NFL draft go underway in the top 10, Cam Ward, Travis Hunter, Abdul Carter, Will Campbell, Mason Graham, Ashton Jeanty, Jets get Armin Mambu, 8 the Carolina Panthers. I don't want to upset his mother because it's not Tet McMillan. They do not want you calling him Tet McMillan. It's Hetero McMillan. 9 Kelvin Banks Jr. to the Saints, and then 10 Colston Loveland to the Bears. I was curious how the rest of the draft was going to go because we focus so much on the top 10 because that's what we think we have the best idea, even though we really have no idea of what's really going to go on. Here are the picks that I loved outside of the top 10. Michael Williams falling to the 49ers at 11. Isn't that the rich get richer? There's a tremendous amount of upside. That roster is getting older. They could use another pass rusher, which is crazy to even say that where the 49ers were. Michael Williams out of Georgia going to the 49ers, I loved the fact that this guy did go early because I thought this guy was a top 15 talent. I didn't know if he was going to go, though, in the first 20 picks. He went inside the top 15. Kenneth Grant going to out of Michigan going to the Miami Dolphins. Love that pick. I think that dude was a stud in college. Him and Mason Graham complemented one another so well. He didn't get enough credit for that team that won a championship at Michigan. I believe Kenneth Grant can be a very good player in the NFL. 14, Tyler Warren, who I thought was the 5th best player in the draft. I told you I had Abdul Carter 1, Travis Hunter 2, Mason Graham 3, Ashton Jeanty 4, Tyler Warren 5. How there was a tight end, and I say this is a Michigan guy, Colston Loveland, that went before Tyler Warren I didn't get, and how you had, I'm not saying these picks were bad, but how you had the Jets, the Panthers, and the Bears, all three of those teams, all pass up on Tyler Warren. Yeah, I didn't like that. And now the Colts don't have anyone to throw the football to him because Anthony Richardson stinks and Daniel Jones stinks. But you got Michael Pittman, you got Jonathan Taylor, and you got Tyler Warren. What do the Colts need? A quarterback. 15, Jalen Walker falling to the Falcons. He stays in Georgia, right? I think that's phenomenal. I think he's an incredible player. I thought he for sure was going in the top 10 of the NFL draft. And he ends up going to 15, and the Falcons need help on that defensive side of the ball. 19, sneaky good pick. Some people may question the fit because they already have Mike Evans and they just re-signed Chris Godwin, who's coming off the injury. But Emeka Egbuka, who I think is criminally underrated in this draft. I love that he went 19, and I also love that he went to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I don't know what the Bucs are going to be able to do on defense this year, but look at their offense. You got Baker Mayfield, you got Mike Evans, Chris Godwin, when he comes back from injury. You got Emeka Egbuka, and then Bucky Irving. Bucky. You know, Bucky's going to have a lot of touchdowns this year. There's no doubt about that. So I love that pick. Also, Marion Hampton at 22. Some people are like, oh, the Chargers just signed Najee Harris. Why would they take a Marion Hampton? Well, look what Harbaugh does. Blake Corum, Donovan Edwards. And Najee Harris may not be a long-term running back there with the Los Angeles Chargers with how many years he's already been in the league. I like getting another weapon for Justin Herbert. Could they have gone wide receiver? Yes. But you could always address that coming up in the second round as well because people say this is a deep wide receiving draft class. And then finally, you know, there's just some teams that they always just find a way to do a certain thing in the draft. And usually, and I just saw Stu mouth that team because he knows where I'm going with this because we're already past 22. But there's some teams that we look at the draft and we go, oh, they're always picking there and they always get it wrong. Stu may now mouth the Raiders. But we don't always think about the positive ways, too. Like, we usually talk about how the Patriots can't draft wide receivers. How that may be different after last night, but the Raiders can never draft anyone in the first round, right? Like, you go through some of these teams, and there's just teams that are, it's just engraved in your mind that they're horrible in the draft. But then there's a team like the Baltimore Ravens. Every year, a defensive player falls. A few years ago, it was Kyle Hamilton. Right? There's always a defensive player that finds their way to the Baltimore Ravens. This year, it's Malachi Starks. Now, there was a wide range on him. I think Malachi Starks is going to be a stud. Aaron Murray said that if you took all the Georgia players in the draft this year, he's the guy he's the most confident in. That would be the best player, which he thought the world of Michael Williams. He's thought the world of Jalen Walker as well. It just speaks to what they asked Malachi Starks to do at Georgia and how well he did it. But now think about that. You have Kyle Hamilton at Notre Dame, who's a stud, and Malachi Starks out of Georgia, who's a stud, in the same secondary. The rich just get richer with the Baltimore Ravens. So they always find a way to get some heck of a player in the NFL draft. So those are some draft picks outside the top 10. Michael Williams to the Niners at 11. Kenneth Grant to the Dolphins at 13. Tyler Warren to the Colts at 14. Jalen Walker going to the Falcons at 15. Emeka Egbuka going to the Buccaneers at 19. Omarion Hampton going 22 to the Los Angeles Chargers. And Malachi Starks going to the Baltimore Ravens at 27. We'll take a break. We'll come on back. We'll update you some of the biggest stories in the world of sports with some audio when we return. It's a news brief in 25 minutes from now. NFL Network analyst Marc Ross will join us.
You're in a 5-minute break. 4 minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. Forty-five seconds remaining. Thirty seconds remaining. Fifteen seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
Infinity and beyond.
He's live. He's nationwide. This is the Zach Gelb Show.
You want to know how bleeping crazy we're about to get? Well, think about something that's crazy and then put steroids in it. During the break, and we'll play you this audio at some point before we get on out of here in the next 2 hours. Warren Sharp tweets out this video of Adam Schefter on NFL Live. Sharp Football, great Twitter follow, by the way. And it's Adam Schefter's commentary right now on Shedeur Sanders. And I watched the entirety of it during the break before telling Stu or Samter because I didn't want to be like, oh, there's something, and then it not be actually right, even though Warren's very credible. So this is what Adam Schefter said. The Giants obviously prefer Jackson Dart. I think the Browns prefer Jackson Dart. I think the Saints absolutely preferred Jackson Dart. I won't be surprised that Tyler Shuck goes ahead of Shedeur Sanders tonight. I think there are not a lot of teams that love the idea of drafting Shedeur. I think now we're at the point where unless he goes in the third round at number 83 to the Pittsburgh Steelers, who had a discussion about him on the board at number 21, I think we may get a team that we never connected him to. So, Schefter then says, I'm just hypothesizing some of these teams. 3 teams he mentioned. This team supposedly likes Shedeur Sanders, the Seattle Seahawks, who just signed Sam Darnold, but let's remember that Sam Darnold's, it's a 3-year deal. Even though Gary Myers told me I was basically like an idiot when this all came out, there's only like $55 or $60 million guaranteed, so you could easily get out of that. Another team he mentioned, the Arizona Cardinals, right? Who it's not a guarantee that Kyler Murray is their guy, even though they paid him like he's their guy, but it's a new regime. And then everybody, fasten your seatbelts. Fasten your seatbelts. Step back. Sit down. Stay calm. Stay calm, please. The Dallas Cowboys. Adam Schefter is on the ESPN right now, and he's talking about the possibility of Shedeur Sanders. Do the Shedeur Sanders. Falling to the Seattle Seahawks, the Arizona Cardinals, or yes, even the Dallas Cowboys. Folks, this is effing crazy. Okay? So let me just play into this game. At 83, that's the 19th pick in the third round. That's when the Steelers are there. Which, if he's there at 83, the Steelers better take him. But if that's the case, the Browns would pass on him twice at 33 and 36. The Raiders would pass on him at 37. The Saints would pass on him at 40. The Jets would pass on him at 42. You know what? I'll entertain Bart Winkler here, who threw out the idea that Brock Purdy would get traded and they would draft Shedeur Sanders. The Niners would pass on him at 43. The Cowboys would pass on him at 44. The Cardinals would pass on him at 47. Maybe he could go there to one of those teams because Schefter threw out the Cardinals. Schefter threw out the Cowboys. The Dolphins, who really don't have a great backup quarterback, it's Zach Wilson, would pass him at 48. The Seahawks will then pass up on him at 50 and 52 if he somehow falls to 83. And that's for the second round, those would be the egregious ones. Then the third round, let's just see how many of these teams would pass him again. Browns at 67. Raiders at 68. Like, Stu, if we get to the third round and the Raiders pass on him again at 68, you'd be livid, right?
Yeah, I mean, at that point, you got to take him. Third round, have to take him. Probably
Saints
have to take
at 71, Jets at 73, Niners at 75, Cowboys at 76, Cardinals at 78. Colts, you know what? What about the Colts at 80? You got Anthony Richardson. You got Daniel Jones. Boo, boo. All right? If he's there at 80, take Shedeur Sanders. And then the Seahawks would be at 82 before the Steelers would be at 83. Man, I thought for sure he was going to go in the second round. After hearing that Schefter stuff, I don't know when Shedeur is going to go. And to answer that question that we asked earlier, I don't think it's going to be Cleveland now. I thought it could be. I don't think it will be now. So, my oh my. All righty, let's update you some of the biggest stories in the world of sports with some audio. Marc Ross going to join us coming up in 15 minutes. We'll talk about the NFL draft with him, but let's get to a news brief right now.
Time for your daily news brief. We get you caught up on the rumors, reports, and reconnaissance from the day in sports.
Shedeur Sanders. He did speak last night at his own event as he was sitting there and watching the first round with his friends and family. Shedeur Sanders on slipping out of the first round.
We all didn't expect this, of course, but I feel like with God, anything possible, everything possible. I don't feel like this happened, for no reason. All this is of course, fuel to the fire. And under no circumstance, we all know this shouldn't have happened. But we understand we're on the bigger and better things. Tomorrow's the day. We're going to be happy regardless. Legendary.
I love how he ends it with legendary. Legendary. Like, this could be a legendary fall. I hope it's not. I like Shedeur. I think it's crazy that he wasn't the second overall quarterback in this draft taken. Now we're talking about Jackson Dart was the second quarterback taken, and it could be Tyler Shuck? Huh? Is he even going to go in the second or third round? I would have to think he does, but who the heck knows after hearing what Schefter said. Omar Khan, Pittsburgh Steelers general manager, on drafting Derek Harmon and not taking Shedeur Sanders.
The other day when we met, we talked about certain guys that we would not trade away from, and this is one of those players for us. The phone was ringing, and we had some serious conversations, but at the end of the day, once Derek was still there, we were excited, and it was an easy choice for us.
And let's go to Joe Shane on trading up for Jackson Dart and making him the pick at 25.
Obviously, we traded back for Jackson, fired up to get him. We went through an extensive quarterback process. It started as far back as last May in terms of evaluating the quarterbacks, and Dave's and I have been through this quite a few times. And at the end of the day, we're fired up to have Jackson Dart as part of the organization, and look forward to working with him.
And Brian Daboll, did the organization consider other quarterbacks over Dart?
Yeah, I'd say, look, we've had conversations all the way up to this morning, actually, about a variety of things. And, I like the way he plays. I like his competitive fire. I like his accuracy. I like his ability, again, to push the ball down the field. His athletic ability to run with the football. I know the system that they ran down there at Ole Miss is similar to the one we had at Alabama. So there's some carryover on some of these things, but I think this guy's got better every year he's played. He's a leader. He was smart. He has the attributes that we were looking for. So excited to have him. Look forward to getting him in the room, and he's got a lot to learn. It'll be a process here with him, but he's a guy we look forward to working with.
I remember last year the Giants tried to trade up for either Jaden Daniels or Drake May, were unsuccessful. This year during the draft we found out that they tried to trade up before this process really got underway for Cam Ward. The Giants would have got the number 1 overall pick. Tennessee would have got the 3rd overall pick. Next year's first-round pick from the Giants and multiple other picks, but the Tennessee Titans said thanks, but no thanks. Let's go to John Gruden. This is on the Gruden's QB class via Barstool. He had a little sit-down with Jackson Dart, and Jackson Dart's snap count could be the lamest snap count ever.
Stand up. Let me see your snap count. Let me be honest with me, because I see at USC, I see this guy.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
You ready?
Yeah. No, I want to hear the snap count.
Oh, yeah. My God.
Really? Every time?
Every time.
Do you have like a dummy clap or anything?
Yeah, we call it purple.
What's that? No.
Yeah.
For 3 years, you've been clapping. I think I could do that.
Let me hear it.
No, I ain't doing it.
Oh. Usually kids go to college for 3 years and they're clapping, but that's in a different way. Just Jackson Dart sitting there and just getting up there. Not like, blue 42, blue 42, hike. None of that. Just Giants football. Jackson Dart. Giants trading up to get Jackson Dart. Oh, my God. Let's go to James Gladstone. I don't know if this guy will be a good GM, but I hope he becomes a good GM. because he's just fascinating. There is aura around the Jags right now. You got Travis Hunter, and Liam Cohen was interesting with the Duval stuff. Now we know a little bit about James Gladstone, and he basically just whipped out his brass cojones and threw him on the table last night. This is James Gladstone and the Jaguars' move, trading up from 5 to 2 to secure the services of one Travis Hunter.
I probably got some familiarity with the them picks sort of process. So for our fans, I'll tell you, don't be scared. This is something I'm uniquely positioned to navigate, and we ended up bringing Travis Hunter to Jacksonville, and with that, he is somebody who is deserving of a first-round draft pick as a wide receiver.
This Chase
and
Daniel?
He is worthy of a first-round draft pick as a corner. Certainly look forward to each of those elements showing themselves over the next few years.
Let's hear one more from James Gladstone. He really gave an intro. A real good intro for Travis Hunter when they introduced him today.
As we sit here, Travis Hunter is a Jacksonville Jaguar, and really what comes to mind for me, right? Thinking about the sport of football and really the power of the game itself, right? Its capacity to ignite belief, right? Belief in ourselves, belief in others, right? Belief in achieving what many may deem impossible. Travis Hunter, he embodies belief. Right, he's a rare person, he's a rare player, but he's also a reminder that the boundaries of the game of football were built to be challenged. And so the decision to select him was actually a statement for how we plan to move, who we are, and we want him to be nothing more than him. Because when he is, he elevates the space around him. From the football field to the city to the game of football itself, Travis Hunter is who we've been hunting up. Couldn't be more jacked to be sitting right here beside him and introduce you all to the man of the hour.
Oh my God. Those are some words. Like, we should have had dramatic music under that. Is this Shakespeare or is that an NFL general manager? Now that's the question. Let's go to Travis Hunter on ESPN. What did the Jags say about playing both ways?
I mean, they told me they was going to let me go out there and do what I do, so they put me on phone with both coordinators, so I'm going to just go out there and just do what I can do.
And, of course, we know what he could do on the gridiron. Now we'll just see how that ultimately does play out. Let's go, but how about Brian Thomas Jr., him on the same side of the ball? With Travis Etienne, too. Trevor Lawrence, stay healthy. Let's get the job done. Let's go Ashton, Jeanty, Westwood One Sports. What should Raider fans like Stuart Kovacs expect from him?
Man, they're getting a dog, man. Somebody's going to lay it on the line each and every week, with the guys he's out there. I mean, Max Crosby hit me yesterday. He said, man, I'm excited to be, possibly going to war with you. And, I'm ready to go to war with everybody over there.
Hey, Stu, I saw the Raiders before the draft. They were, dropping hints on social media.
Yes, they were.
None of them were actual hints, right?
One of them was kind of decoded as Kelvin Banks, so I don't know if that changed when...
You were not happy with that.
I was not happy with it, because what are you doing? What are we doing here? Can we just draft the right guy for once and not make a whole scene out of it? Come on.
Alberto in the YouTube chat says, James Gladstone, he sounded like AI when he was speaking. Can we double check that? Clay Matthews, this is how he started the NFL draft. Little shot at the Bears.
I just got off the phone with the president, Donald Trump. He asked me to pass a message along to all 32 NFL franchises. So let me tell you what it reads here, all right? It says, my fellow Americans, the Bears still suck!
I didn't know where that was going. I'm sitting on my couch, and I'm like, Roger Goodell's about to have a heart attack. And then it was, it's a Bears suck kind of chant and a troll. Finally, Mason Graham, he's not a man of many words, but you think you'd be a little bit fired up for your teammate that gets drafted in a surprising fashion. Former Michigan teammates together, your brother for a few years. Colson Loveland get drafted 10 to the Bears, like kind of the moment I had with Kobe White at the draft, where I told Kobe White that his teammate Cam Johnson got drafted. He was like, what? Wow, bro, that's crazy. Wow. And it was an awesome moment. So people tried to recreate that moment last night with Mason Graham. This was courtesy of Brown's Twitter. informing Mason Graham, hey, your teammate Colston Loveland somehow got drafted 10th overall in the draft by the Bears. Here's how it went.
Hey, your teammate Colston, he got drafted to the Bears.
He did?
Yeah.
10?
10.
Damn. Okay. That's crazy.
Alright, so what
That's my boy.
Dude.
Not that excited. Like, at first, he's like, he did? I thought we were going to get a great video. It's like, whew. Man, he did? How the heck was Tyler Warren still on the board and they picked Colston? What the heck is going on with Chicago? That's what that sounded like. All righty, we'll take a timeout. When we come on back in 5 minutes, Marc Ross is going to join us from the NFL Network. We'll get his thoughts on some of the picks that he loved the most in the first round and what the heck is going to happen with Shedeur Sanders tonight. Marc Ross next on the Zach Gelb Show.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. 45 seconds remaining. Thirty seconds remaining. 15 seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
Listening to the Zach Gelb Show.
All righty, welcome back in. It is the Zach Gelb Show on the Infinity Sports Network. Marc Ross is an NFL Network analyst, and you have live coverage, obviously, of rounds 2 and 3 will air tonight on the NFL Network at 7 p.m. Eastern Time. And Marc Ross is here with us right now to recap the craziness of the first round and also take an early look ahead to rounds 2 and 3 tonight. Marc, appreciate the time. Thanks so much for doing this. How you been?
Great. My pleasure.
Well, let me start you off with Shedeur Sanders. So we got a sense yesterday that he was falling. I never thought he was really going to fall out of the first round altogether. What was your reaction last night when you saw Shedeur Sanders not go in the first 32 picks?
Yeah, I thought Pittsburgh was the landing spot. I thought that I didn't think he was going to go up at the top, but I thought for sure Pittsburgh was it, and especially in light of when he had his visit there and he talked about Tomlin reminding him of his dad and the connection, and of course, we're not even going to talk about the dire need for a quarterback that Pittsburgh has. So that was definitely a surprise when they passed on him, especially to take another defensive lineman. But, it looks like the top here will be the place for him. If Cleveland doesn't take him or the Raiders, this might be an interesting night.
Yeah, your NFL Network colleague, Ian Rappaport, I was just watching a video right before we came back from break. He said the Raiders potentially in the second round or the Steelers in the third round. I saw Adam Schefter was on ESPN, and he was basically making it seem as if it's not going to be the Saints and it's not going to be the Cleveland Browns with their second round selections. If you were running the Browns front office, right, you made the move, you got Mason Graham, you got a future first round pick next year, you also got an additional second round pick, and you're picking at 33 and 36. If you're Cleveland, would you take that call on Shedeur Sanders now, or would you just maybe say, okay, we'll beef up the rest of the roster and go a quarterback a year from now with 2 first-round selections?
Well, these questions about the quarterback are always interesting, and it's always depending on your job security as a head coach and a general manager. When you got job security, you can say, sure, let's just keep building the roster and push it to next year. But when you don't, and we see what the Giants did, it's like, we better go get somebody right now. And that's the difference. So if Andrew Berry and Kevin Stefanski are sitting there now and that has them say, yeah, just do what you got to do, build the roster, you'll be here for 2-3 years, do what you need to do, then you don't think Shedeur Sanders is your guy, push it forward another year or however long you need to do it. But if you're sitting there saying, well, this is a way for us to kind of buy some time and get some assurances from ownership that we're doing the right thing, taking Shedeur and he's the guy and give us time to work with him, then those sort of desperation moves happen.
To be clear, I'm a fan of Shedeur. I thought Shedeur should have been the second quarterback off the board in this draft. Just out of curiosity, Marc Ross, what's your view of Shedeur Sanders as a quarterback?
I always thought he was around a second round pick talent anyway. So him getting drafted wherever he gets maybe drafted today is really in the proper spot for where I saw his talent when I evaluated him. And, I think a lot of people were up in arms about, especially in New York, where they thought it was going to be Shedeur, not Jackson Dart. But I knew all along it was going to be Jackson Dart. And if you paid attention to anything, you just know the people in the building that they were not going to take Shedeur Sanders. So, but that being said, I thought he had built up enough goodwill on film and put enough good film out there that teams are going to take him. But again, that comes with a lot of concerns around him, whether they're justified or not. Maybe there are some concerns that the general public doesn't know about. So that's why I think all of this is coming together with Shedeur where he is right now.
You're not wrong. A lot of people yesterday said Brian Daboll preferred Jackson Dart, and that was the quarterback. Once they took Abdul Carter at 3, they would trade up to go get. Do you think that was the right decision? Because personally, I think Shedeur Sanders is a better quarterback than Jackson Dart, so I would have rather had the Giants take Shedeur Sanders.
Yeah, well, whether it doesn't matter whether I think it's right or wrong, Brian Daboll thought it, and this is their legacy right now with Jackson Dart too. And the interesting thing with making that move is, I mean, the Giants go 3 and what's my math here? 3-15 next year, is that right? The
3-14, I think.
3-14. Are they even going to be around to pick the quarterback? So here it is: you entrust your head coach to go. This is your guy. Let's go get him. And then you have a terrible year, and you get rid of that said coach, and now you're just setting your franchise back even more. And now you're pushing it over once again with the Giants. Now you got a whole new staff in here, maybe not even like Jackson Dart. So, yeah, whatever the vision there with New York and with pushing it all in with Daboll, I guess now you have to give them time. But it's a very complicated issue there, what's going on.
Yeah, how do you think they'll approach that this year? I know Dave's last night said, Russell Wilson and the brass, they said that's their guy, that's their starter. So you have Russ, you got Jameis Winston there. I got to think eventually at some point, because I don't expect the Giants to be that good this year, that they're going to have to play Jackson Dart. And if he doesn't play, I'm not saying great, but if he's not average to start, then yeah, you're probably right. Shannon Daboll then would be out of a job at the end of the year.
Yeah, and he gets set back again, and he has to play this year. Russell Wilson, he's done it. All right, we've seen it. We've seen the story with Russell. We've seen the story with Jameis. You know where you're going with those two. So you moved up to take him for a reason. However many games you need, 2, 3, 5, 10, whatever it is to get Jackson Dart in there, you must do that. And some other teams that have taken, just look at last year's crop of quarterbacks. Those guys all jumped in right away and played, and they, for the most part, except for Penix, but then once he got in, they all looked really well. They all look good, and they all look like, okay, these guys made the right decision. So I think with the Giants and Jackson Dart, you got to get him out there to see what you have.
What do you think Jackson Dart can be as a pro quarterback?
You're suspect. Let's just start with his own division. I mean, he's fourth, right there in his own division. I mean, and okay, we're not even getting to the rest of the landscape of the NFC, but when I evaluated him, there's some good things to like, and the timing throws, and he is a good athlete. He can run, but there was just a lot missing for me when I watched him. It was just like the feel for the game, the streakiness. The pocket in the pocket, not having a great feel and poise there, and pressure got in his face. I thought he fell apart a lot. So there are those sort of tangible traits you could see in him, but overall, I just had a lot of questions and a lot of issues with his overall talent, and I don't see him being hey, go compete against the top-notch quarterbacks in the league to go win you playoff games.
Marc Ross here with us from the NFL Network. Getting back to the start of the draft, we had Cam Ward go 1, and I think Cam Ward, I wouldn't say that he could be a top 5 quarterback in the league, but I think that he's a very good quarterback, and Tennessee needed a face of the franchise, so I love the pick there. Then at 2, most of us were expecting Cleveland to go take Travis Hunter, and the Jaguars trade up, and there was some steam brewing there in the 2 hours before the start of the draft. What did you make of that deal of the Browns going back to 5, picking up future draft capital, and the Jaguars moving up to go get Travis Hunter at 2?
Yeah, I think it was a brilliant move by the Browns, and from where they are as a franchise to, Travis Hunter wasn't going to solve many of their problems that they have, and for Jacksonville, just 2 first-round picks for okay, let's just look at Travis Hunter. I know we keep talking about him as this unicorn and everything. These words have been thrown around, but I think it was Calvin Johnson the last time a receiver's been taken in the top 2, and a corner being taken that high, it really hasn't happened. So I just have a hard time seeing him playing full time on both sides of the ball. And if he does split time, how much impact is he really making? So even though I think he is a fantastic athlete and all the accolades he's gotten, it was just way too much to give up to go get him for Jacksonville, where they are as a franchise. I know much has been made about James Gladstone coming over from the Rams and F those picks and all that. But look, everything's different. Every organization is different. That was a whole different set of circumstances, what went on with the Rams. They had Matthew Stafford there to hold that all together, and you can afford to do that. If you're Jacksonville and the struggling Trevor Lawrence, if this is your way to say, we're going to save him, okay. But to give up all they gave, I think it was just way too much.
Marc Ross here with us from the NFL Network. Other things I was surprised about, we talked about Shedeur. Tyler Warren fallen to 14, and the Bears, they ended up taking Colston Loveland at 10. I also thought you could argue maybe the Jets or Panthers could also take Tyler Warren. Why do you ultimately think Tyler Warren fell all the way 14th to the Indianapolis Colts?
Yeah, I thought the Bears were always the landing spot for Tyler Warren, but it had always been a lot of back and forth between the Warren versus Loveland, and they were completely different players. Whereas Warren, the versatile guy, big, strong, can do more work underneath in the middle, and Loveland was more the athletic stretch. So it was really about Ben Johnson. That tells you the vision that Ben Johnson has of what he likes in a tight end, because he chose to go with that vertical speed guy. They have Cole Kmet on the team already, so maybe it was more of, well, let's get more of a basketball roster up on here instead of getting another guy that's similar to Kmet. But for the Colts, I think that was an outstanding pick. It always seemed as if I actually had them flipped in my mock draft, where I had Warren going to the Bears.
I think most of us did. I had the same thing. I had Warren going to the Bears, and then at 14, Loveland going to the Colts.
Yep. So, but I joked last night that Tyler Warren got on the roster now. He's the best quarterback on the Colts roster.
You're not wrong. Like Daniel Jones, Anthony Richardson. You know what? Maybe that's a surprise destination for Shedeur at some point.
For sure. It may be. It may be. So it'll be a fun night.
Another thing. So you look at Cam Ward, right? One time a 0-star recruit, entered his name in the draft last year, took it out, went to Miami, ended up paying off as the number 1 overall pick. Will Johnson had to come back last year. This time last year, we're sitting there, he's probably would have been a top 5 pick in the draft when we were prognosticating him. Now, because of a knee injury and some other injuries as well, he falls out of the first round. How do you make those evaluations when the player's really good, but there is an injury history, especially when you're right towards the lead up of the draft?
Well, that's all about your medical staff, and you have tons of meetings with your doctors and trainers about every player. And some players are easy. They check out as an A, and, we used to grade players, and most teams do A, B, C, D, F, just like you do in school. And, all right, you got an A guy, move on. You got a C. All right, let's talk about him a little bit. Once you're getting to that C minus D range, F, all right, you're talking about those people nonstop. And Will Johnson fell into that category of whatever those injuries are. How soon will he be healing from them? Is he injury prone? And then you have to go back to the Michigan trainers and what they say about him. And you're really piecing that all together with your medical staff. Your scouts aren't even in those meetings. You're talking about it with your head coach, GM, your really executive team. And, that's a lot of what the outside doesn't know. The fans don't know. Media doesn't know what exactly is said in these meetings with the medical staff. And so it's all about what team, whoever takes Will Johnson, you'll know their medical staff feels okay with those said injuries. The Jihad Campbell pick last night with Philly, where his shoulder, and Howie Roseman did a great job saying, this was a long term. He was kind of putting that together. It's like, this guy might not be out there week 1, but we're getting a top 10 player because our doctors feel long term he's going to be okay. Whereas other teams probably looked at Jihad Campbell and said, we can't do this right now. We're not in a position to wait on a guy for half a season to play him. So it's so vital what takes place at the combine. Well, during the year with the scouts getting medical information at the combine, and post combine when you're bringing players into your facility to get them checked out.
What were some other picks last night that really stood out to you? I thought the Ravens did it again. Kyle Hamilton a few years ago. Now they get Malachi Starks. Were there a few other picks that you were like, wow, really love that pick that maybe you didn't see coming?
I really love the back half. After 24 on, for the most part, those were all the picks. I was like, yep, that's a great pick. That's a great pick. That's a great pick. I had Starks going to the Ravens in my mock draft too, which was like, and I said, like, they took Kyle Hamilton. They're going to take Kyle Hamilton part 2, put those two guys together. They might have the best safety duo in the league. And, we just mentioned Jihad Campbell, even a Josh Simmons pick, another medical question mark there for him and his process, where the Chiefs get him at 32nd. And he was my second tackle after Will Campbell, top 10 talent physically. I love the Maxwell Harrison pick for Buffalo down there at the bottom too. Even Josh Connerly, who I had over Kelvin Banks, who went much higher. So, at the back end there was some really good picks. Even Donovan Jackson going to Minnesota. I loved him. It was, that for the most part, I thought in the middle there was a lot of questionable guys there for a stretch with the Walter Nolans of the world and Shamar Stewarts. And, Gray Zabel, even though I think he's a good player, like going that high. So it was definitely, and then the Steelers right after that. So, I mean, every pick, you go into the draft, you thought there wasn't going to be much drama. Then once the draft hits, it's drama all the time. Last night was like every pick was some drama.
How about today? So we talk about Will Johnson. We talked about Shedeur Sanders. I know Mike Green from Marshall still on the board. You got the running backs from Ohio State. A few names that maybe stand out to you that you're like, okay, that's a steal falling in the second round.
Well, Mason Taylor, loved Mason Taylor, the tight end out of LSU, who I thought could have been a first-round pick. Luther Burden, as his name has not been called yet. He's in there. I think there'll be a run on running backs in the second round with the Ohio State duo there. We mentioned Will Johnson already. Someone's going to take a chance, and we'll see what the quarterbacks, if they start going with. Even Milroe getting a lot of buzz, even though I'm not a Milroe fan. There seems he's gained a lot of steam. I think players like Mike Green, it was a lot of character issues, first-round talent, but the character issues is pushing him down to where he is. So still a lot of really, really good players that are on the board now.
Last thing I'll ask you, it's kind of a three-part question. I got a Raiders fan, I got a Jet fan, and I'm a Patriot fan. Armin Membu to the Jets, Ashton Jeanty to the Raiders, Will Campbell to the Patriots. What do you make of those three selections all pretty early in the first 7 picks?
I think there was no surer pick outside of Cam Ward than Will Campbell going to the Patriots. And then, Jeanty was rumored to go to the Raiders all along too. And, that's a way for, I guess them to get his Marshawn Lynch part 2, Coach Carroll to get Marshawn and for Geno to be Russell. And then the third team was who? What was the third team?
The Jets going Armin Membu.
Jets, Membo. I think that was even too. That was kind of chalk too of many believe that they would go try to bolster that offensive line, get that run game going with Justin Fields. So I think none of those were really much of a surprise there, but good picks.
He's Marc Ross, NFL Network analyst. You remember that the NFL Network's coverage of the NFL Draft continues tonight, rounds 2 and 3, and it airs live at 7 p.m. Eastern on the NFL Network. Marc, good deal. Appreciate it. Thank you.
All right. My pleasure.
All righty, we'll take a break. It is the Zach Gelb Show on the Infinity Sports Network, 888-710-4ISN. We'll take some calls after this, 888-710-4476. Also, I got a little 3 words or less on each team and their selection in the top 10. Update time first. Here's Zach.
Infinity Sports Network Sports Flash.
Well, the NFL Draft kicked off last night with the first round, and tonight come the next 2 with Shedeur Sanders still on the board. Once thought to be a potential number 1 pick, he is still waiting. His name is at the top of the leaderboard as round 2 begins tonight, and the Colorado quarterback took the slight in stride.
We all didn't expect this, of course, but I feel like with God, anything possible, everything possible. I don't feel like this happened, for no reason.
Also undrafted last night, Michigan cornerback Will Johnson. USC recruit Elijah Arenas is out of an induced coma and making progress. The 18-year-old son of the former NBA star Gilbert Arenas was in a 1-car crash yesterday. The Grizzlies won't have Ja Morant tomorrow when they look to stave off elimination against the Thunder because of a hip injury. The NBA playoffs continue tonight with a trio of games. Orlando hosts Boston down 2-0. Jason Tatum is doubtful because of a bruised wrist after missing Game 2. The Bucks try to get back into the series down 2-0 to the Pacers. Hosting Game 3 tonight, the Lakers and Cubs meet in Minnesota with that series even at 1. And after a lengthy rain delay, the Cubs and Phillies underway at Wrigley and scoreless. I'm Rich Ackley.
The Infinity Sports Network is on your smart speaker. All you have to say is, play Infinity Sports Network.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. 4 minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. Forty-five seconds remaining. 30 seconds remaining. Fifteen seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
You're listening to the Zach Gelb Show on the Infinity Sports Network.
This NFL draft recap. It's weird to say after all the speculation, but now we have a first round to recap. Is sponsored by Ego. Tools that deliver or exceed the power and performance of gas without the noise, fuss, and fumes. For any outdoor challenge, count on Ego. Tools to deliver the power, performance, and innovation you need. Ego. Power beyond belief. Zach Gelb Show, Infinity Sports Network. Let's get a little NFL music cooking, please. And I will give you in 3 words or less a thought on the teams in the top 10, all 10 teams that made their selection. Cam Ward, remember, it's 3 words or less. Franchise quarterback. That's what it is. Tennessee has not been able to have a franchise quarterback that ended up being one. Not just, okay, you draft someone and they don't pan out to be one. Someone that you look at and you go, okay, I feel very confident that this could be the franchise guy, and this will be the franchise guy. And they haven't had a legitimate franchise quarterback since Steve McNair. I think Cam Ward will be that guy. I think he's good. The question is, can he be great? Can he be elite? We'll have to wait and see. But I like the way that Perloff kind of described him the other day, that he could be a more mobile Jared Goff. And I understand some people may be like, that's not wonderful. But Jared Goff in LA got to a Super Bowl. Jared Goff with the Detroit Lions has lasted there longer than anyone could think. I think he's better, and that's what Perloff said, better than a mobile Jared Goff. So you're probably looking at the ceiling for Cam Ward maybe being the 6th best quarterback in the league, 5th best quarterback in the league, potentially. Yeah, probably 6. And then the floor, after a few years, maybe being like 11 or 12. I think he's in that 6 to 12 range, and I would lean closer to 6 than 12. Travis Hunter, setting the tone. The Jacksonville Jaguars needed a tone. You look at their franchise, they have a new GM, James Gladstone, F them picks now, and then also Mr. Duval with Liam Cohen. You have Trevor Lawrence, who he could turn it around, but I think us expecting him to turn around, that ship has sailed. And then you got Brian Thomas Jr., who's a good wide receiver. Josh Hines-Allen is a solid pass rusher. Trayvon Walker, another solid pass rusher. And Travis Etienne, he's solid, right? You got a lot of solid pieces. But you needed a star. And are there questions about how great Travis Hunter could be and what it's going to look like at the next level? Yes. But they called their shot, and they took that shot, and now Travis Hunter's with Jacksonville. And that at least sets the tone for this new regime. Abdul Carter. Back to roots. That's what it is for the Giants. I was almost running out of words there, so. But anyway, they go back to their roots. That's what it is. You look at this team. When the Giants win, what do they have? Strong defensive line. Good pass rushers. You got Dexter Lawrence, stud, one of the best defensive linemen in football. You traded for Brian Burns, excellent player, very underrated in the NFL. I don't believe that Kayvon Thibodeau is great. I think he believes he's a lot greater than what he actually is, but he's still there. And you go on out and you get who I think is the preeminent player in the draft in Abdul Carter. And did you see Abdul Carter last night with Micah Parsons was saying, Lawrence Taylor, I would want to wear your number that's retired by the Giants? So I don't know what LT is going to think about that. But a lot of people thought it was going to be Phil Simms having to give up his number retirement because he's 11 in college. Now people are saying it's 56. Will Campbell, protecting the franchise. That's what we're doing. That's what the Patriots are doing. They got Drake May. He's the franchise. Their offensive line was hellacious last year. It was the worst offensive line in football. They beef up that offensive line, whether he's a left tackle or left guard, we have to see. But they're going to try him at left tackle, and then maybe they'll have to convert him into a left guard. But they are finding some answer on that putrid, god-awful offensive line. Mason Graham, say you're sorry. Ohio State fans, he's your daddy. He has owned you. He may have called your football team a bunch of putty cats, but you apologized to Mason Graham because you guys said some not so nice things about Mason Graham. And now, guess where Mason Graham is on? Here we go, Brownies. Here we go. And I believe he's third best player in the draft. Ashton Jeanty. Stu, what would your 3 words be? I'll put you on the spot here since this is your team.
I would say home run pick.
Home run pick. Going, God! A 3-run jack for Ashton Jeanty. Old school ball. That's what this is to me. Those are my 3 words. Pete Carroll is a run-first coach. Marshawn Lynch, then Russell Wilson when they won. That's what you thought of. Eventually, Russell Wilson became a much better quarterback than what he was earlier on in his tenure in Seattle. But you have Geno Smith. You got Brock Bowers, right? You got Jacoby Myers. And you look at this team, I don't love Geno Smith. He's good. He's fine. But you need Ashton, Jeanty to be that bell cow back. You need him to be Marshawn Lynch. You need him to be an Alvin Kamara. You need him to be a Derrick Henry. And those are the 3 running backs he reminds me of. Samter, you got 3 words for Armin Membu, your pick for the JTS. Jets.
Not another lineman. That's our 4th offensive lineman since 2020.
But you're beefing up the offensive line.
It's our 4th offensive lineman since 2020. We also drafted a 2nd-round center in Joe Tippmann a couple years ago. We've drafted 5 offensive linemen in the first,
But now you have your
picks.
offensive line solidified. You got Olu Fashanu, you got John Simpson, Joe Tippmann. I know Elijah Vera Tucker's been injured a lot, and you got Armin Membu. Now you got to get a full evaluation out of Justin Fields and hope they don't trade Breece Hall, and you got Garrett Wilson there still.
Yeah, and then if you trade Breece Hall, what are you going, Braylon Allen as your lead back? Who's your number 2 wide receiver for Garrett Wilson? Who else is taking any pressure off of Garrett Wilson? You don't have a tight end. You don't have a number 2 receiver.
Well, maybe they'll draft a running back here in the 2nd or 3rd round.
Okay, fine. They draft another running back in the 2nd round. Who's taking the pressure off of Garrett Wilson? You can't just have a number 1. You need to have a number 2. There's no number 2. Whether it's a tight end or number 2 wide receiver, they have nobody else.
Jets fans upset with the draft pick. You want to know my words? Protection over skill.
Yeah.
I'm kind of with Samter. I don't hate the Armin Membu pick. It seems like Samter hates it.
I don't hate it, but...
seems like you do. But I would have gone with the skill player, and who's also a tight end in Tyler Warren. That's who I thought the pick should have been. Teteroa McMillan. Did I add an extra syllable there? Teteroa McMillan?
Yeah, just don't call him Tet.
Yeah, his mom doesn't like that. Investing in Bryce. That's what they did. You got Xavier Legette last year. Adam Thielen's still on that team. Chuba Hubbard's been a good running back. You paid him in this during last season. And then you go get a wide receiver that's been compared to Mike Evans, which is someone that the Carolina Panthers unfortunately know very well in the NFC South. That's investing in Bryce. Kelvin Banks Jr. Bye Penning. Like I talked about the Saints. They didn't pick up the 5th-year option on Penning, we find out. They have a solidified left tackle. I thought they were good in the bookends. I said maybe they could go offensive line. I thought they were going to go Shedeur. I thought they could have gone defense. I know we speculated maybe an offensive lineman, but that was a surprise to me with the 9th overall pick. And it pretty much assures that Penning is going to be gone on the right side of their offensive line. And finally, the Bears. Why not Warren? That was the most I was annoyed with the NFL draft. Outside of Shedeur falling out of the 32 picks of the Giants not taking him when they traded back up. I was recording myself when the Bears were on the clock because I was ready to see Tyler Warren get picked. And I took off my glasses because I was so frustrated that they took Colston Loveland. And I was surprised when you had Tyler Warren fall past the Jets, fall past the Panthers, but it wasn't like outrage. When they drafted Colston Loveland, the Bears, I was outraged. And I know, right, you trust Ben Johnson, blah, blah, blah. But I'll tell you, I'm rooting for this Bears regime to stink. And I didn't say that heading into this draft. Ryan Poles, he's just zero when it comes to emotion. Ben Johnson, he's a little bit creepy and he's a little bit too confident right now. And you draft Colston Loveland over Tyler Warren. I've watched both extensively. I'm a Michigan guy. I think Tyler Warren's a better football player. Now, Ben Johnson knows a lot about offense more than me. But I don't know. Bears are probably going to be good this year. But Ryan Poles gives you nothing. And this coach in Ben Johnson, he thinks he's already Bill Walsh and Belichick. And I think he's already said more words than Belichick has said in his entire life. All righty, we're coming on back. Onside, offside next.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. 4 minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. Forty-five seconds remaining. Thirty seconds remaining. Fifteen seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
To infinity and beyond.
He's live. He's nationwide. This is the Zach Gelb Show. Here's your host, Zach Gelb.
You know, it's kind of crazy how we all know the NFL is king, but it's moments like last night that just reiterates it. some people were like down on this NFL draft. Not enough star power, not enough storylines. Does anyone really care about this draft? You know, a program director who I know very well, and he once hired me in Philadelphia. He was talking about the Golden State Warriors and how much buzz there is on his radio station. Very good radio station, 95.7 The Game, Matt Nahagan. Does a great job for that station. And he goes, we're not even talking about the draft. The draft, right, it feels like a zero this year, and it's my favorite event because of how great the Warriors are, right? And I know the Warriors didn't play last night, but the NBA postseason was on in my house last night. And in my apartment, it was on. I have multiple TVs, and I had the playoffs on, and then I had the draft on the other. I was glued to the draft. Even when the Knicks almost got screwed last night, and then they're up 2-1. The Grizzlies had an enormous lead. Then they got, Ja Morant got hurt, and then they blew that game, and now Oklahoma City's up 3-0 in that series. And the Clippers just blew out the Nuggets 117-83. The NFL draft was by far and away more entertaining than the NBA postseason last night. And I love Stanley Cup playoff hockey. I do. I love playoff hockey just in general. And you had the Panthers take a 2-0 lead last night. The Maple Leafs win in overtime, and they're up 3-0 in that series over the Senators. The Wild take care of business against the Golden Knights. Now they're on the board. Or excuse me, the Wild, they're up 2-1 in that series. And then you get the Blues, who did take care of the Jets 7-2, and Winnipeg's up 2-1. You know, we had playoff hockey, we had playoff basketball last night. The draft was the story. And it just shows you the power of the NFL draft. The NFL draft is one of my favorite events of the year on the sports calendar. Like, yes, March Madness is spectacular. Love going to the Super Bowl, no doubt about that. I'm just thinking of like other weeks throughout the year. The Stanley Cup Final is always great. But really, the NFL draft, because, yes, I know you could be crazy like me and love Friday and love Saturday. But the draft to me is now one round, Thursday night, all the chaos go ahead, and then a little bit of a carryover into some of the top players if there's a crazy fall like Shedeur that didn't end up going in the first round. Now we're going to see where he's going to go tonight. But that was great TV. Whether it was NFL Network, ESPN, ABC, whatever you're watching, I thought it was phenomenal last night. I really did. And I know people are crushing Mel Kiper because how much he loves Shedeur Sanders. I was agreeing with Mel Kiper a lot. I didn't like the Giants trading back up. And I don't like the Giants trading back up to get Jackson Dart. I think they should have traded back up to get Shedeur Sanders. But then also with Abdul Carter going at 3, you had at the 2 and the 5 spot that big trade go down with Travis Hunter and Mason Graham and all the picks that were involved. Cam Ward started off the draft at number 1. Tatora McMillan going 8. Kelvin Banks going 9. Ibuka going to the Buccaneers, and they already have 2 wide receivers. Jeanty going 6 to the Raiders. Warren falling to 14. Loveland going to 10. There were so many storylines last night from the NFL draft. And tonight, it's the same big storyline that was the biggest storyline last night. Where the heck is Shedeur Sanders going to go? Is there a storyline in this draft? Let me ask it. We'll go around the room this way, and then we'll do onside, offside. And I'll get Jay in Nashville, who's been holding patiently, 888-710-4ISN. Is outside of Shedeur, Stu, what was the biggest storyline for you last night?
I mean, I think it was the trade, right? Mm-hmm. I think it had to be the trade up, and then I'll just say stick with that one as mine, the trade between the Jaguars and the Browns.
All right, Samter, so if Shedeur is off the board and the trade is off the board, when you look back at it, because, I would say, would you say Shedeur is one and then the trade is 2, Stu?
Yes, I would.
Yeah.
Definitely Shedeur won because the coverage on that was just insane the whole night.
And also, I thought he was the player they were most intrigued about going into the draft. So, Shedeur won. And then it was the whole Browns trade with the Jacksonville Jaguars and the 2-5. Samter, after that, then what was the biggest story, in your opinion?
Man. It's connected to Shedeur, but I guess the Giants trading up to get Dart.
Okay. That's
I guess
a move.
That's there.
Okay.
You know, maybe Tyler Warren falling, but that...
Well, don't list here, because we just went from Stu to you and then me. That's how we're going to do this here.
Are we drafting?
No, we're not drafting. It's just an impromptu conversation of just the biggest storylines.
Okay.
I would then think that it was the Tyler Warren, Colston Loveland situation. I thought there was a little ooh and ah on Tatora McMillan And you know what? I'll give credit to the Carolina Panthers. I will. We haven't heard a peep out of David Tepper in the last year. And I think that's a good thing for the Carolina Panthers. They try to restore that organization. Alrighty. Anyway, without further ado, I'm not talking about Freddie Adu. We got some questions. We got some answers. We do this every Monday and Friday. Let's go to a little onside. Offside. Stu, hit it.
Zach's taking on the most polarizing issues in sports. Which side of the line of scrimmage will he end up on?
Offside. Defense number 69.
It's Onsides, Offsides with Zach Gelb.
All right, what do we got cooking today, guys?
All right, so many, including Samter, thought that the Jets would take Tyler Warren
salty
with
Samter.
the 7th pick. Yeah, he's not too happy about that. But instead, they went with the offensive lineman Membu out of Missouri. Now, the Bears, they seemed primed to take the former Penn State star, but surprised us when they took who many thought was a second-rated tight end, and that is Michigan's Colston Loveland. Now, some have compared Loveland to Ben Johnson's former tight end in Detroit, Sam Laporta, but onsides, offsides, Loveland is actually a better fit for Ben Johnson's offense than Tyler Warren.
Can I be serious here for a second and tell you what my biggest concern is about the whole Tyler Warren, Colston Loveland situation? And it's making me reevaluate my opinion. Hickey last night, after the Colts got Tyler Warren, went to a different octave when it comes to his voice just being so high-pitched. Like he is a prepubescent child, if I'm being honest. And he's screaming. And he's like, the Bears always mess it up. They always F it up. That's what they do. Thank you for taking Colston Loveland. Tyler Warren. Penn State to Indianapolis. It's the new Georgia to Philadelphia. Let's go. When Hickey does that let's noise into any video, it just drives me like bonkers. I can't stand it. So now Tyler Warren has to work against the Hickey Hex. If he becomes a Hall of Famer, it's one of the great careers that I've ever seen. But I will happen to agree with Hickey here that I think Warren is the better player. Warren is so good at so many different things. I still don't know how fully developed Colston Loveland is. And last year he didn't have a quarterback. And before that, he was very inconsistent at Michigan. So I could understand people saying, oh, the fit is a little bit better, but I would still take the rather overall better player. And to me, that's the fit that I would rather have. So Loveland is actually a better fit for Ben Johnson's offense than Warren. If Ben Johnson's such an offense genius, you take the best player there, so I'll go offside.
Offside.
Now, the Falcons got some major defensive upgrades last night. First, they drafted Jalen Walker, who was projected to go into top 10 at 15. And then they traded back into the first round and landed Tennessee star edge rusher James Pierce. Onside, offsides, the Falcons were the biggest winner in round one.
Well, they gave up a future first-round pick. So I'm not saying that I like what they did. Now, Pierce has a lot of concerns, but they talk about his upside. I think it's a very safe pick getting Jalen Walker. I was surprised that he fell to 15. I'm going to go offside here because I look at what the Browns did. Even if they don't take Shedeur tonight, they're going to get basically 3 players in the first 36 picks, and they get the Jaguars' first-round pick next year. So just for starters, I think that the Falcons making this move with the Rams and giving up their future first-round pick is a little bit of a concern, even though they got a good player. And I believe that the Browns, maybe with the picks that they got back, and they still got Mason Graham, who's better than both of these guys, and they got a future first-round pick. I just like that move a little bit more, just in terms of the trades and what you got and what you gave up and all that. So the Falcons are the biggest winner in round one. I don't think they had a bad draft. I think it's good what they did, and I like the aggressiveness, but I'm going offside.
Offside. Now, Giants fans were buzzing when news broke that Big Blue was trading back up into the first round to grab a quarterback. However, despite their last-minute workout with Shedeur and reports about how much they loved him, Daboll and Shane went with Ole Miss's Jackson Dart instead. Onsides, offsides, the Giants will be looking for a new starting quarterback before Dart's rookie deal is up.
So I did put in a request for Joe Shane to join us next week. There's been some communication with the Giants, so we're efforting to get Joe Shane on. I'm off Thursday, Friday next week, but I'm here Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, so we're trying to get a day squared away in the next, 3 days next week. What I'll say about this, is I'm just curious why they like Dart over Shedeur Sanders and what they didn't like about Shedeur Sanders. But with that being said, this is a first-round quarterback, so it's 4 years and then a fifth-year option. So do I think Jackson Dart is going to have 4 or 5 years with the Giants when also, like, I like Joe Schoen as a person, I like Brian Daboll as a person, both of them are on the hot seat, and a new regime comes in, are they going to love Jackson Dart? When I don't think Jackson Dart should have been a first-round pick, so I'm going to go offside here. When you ask me, or onside, excuse me, you ask me the Giants will be looking for a new starting quarterback before Dart's rookie deal is up. I'm going onsides.
All right. Travis Hunter won both the Blitnikoff for best receiver and Bednarik for best defensive player and has the third best odds for offensive rookie of the year and fifth best odds for defensive rookie of the year. Well, today at his Jaguars introductory press conference, Hunter was asked an interesting question.
I'll give you a hypothetical real quick because of your competitiveness. It's 4th and 7. You break the huddle, it's one-on-one, and Travis Hunter, the wide receiver, sees Travis Hunter, the corner, across from him, and the ball's coming your way. Which one of y'all comes down with it?
Travis Hunter.
Great answer. Better question. How has that never come up before?
It's a fair point.
We're idiots. We're the Giants drafting Jackson Dart.
Odds all sides. If Travis Hunter, the receiver, went up against Travis Hunter, the corner version would come down with the ball.
What a great question. Stu, what's your answer?
I would say the corner version. I think the corner version is slightly better.
Samter, what's your answer?
I think that the corner version is better, but I think the wide receiver version comes down with the ball just because of how offenses are right now.
I think it's easier for the wide receiver to come down with the ball on a 50-50 ball than the corner. So I would go the wide receiver would come down with the ball. That's the way that I would answer it. So if Travis Hunter, the receiver, went up against Travis Hunter, the corner, what a mouthful that is. The corner version would come down with the ball. I would go offside.
Offside.
All right, so Shedeur Sanders watched his stock drop pick after pick and is now the top quarterback available in the second round.
Legendary.
The Browns have the first and fourth picks of the round and could land their franchise quarterback with one of those picks. Whoever they pick, however, won't have a fifth-year option now that he is out of the first round. Onsides, offsides, if the Browns plan to draft a quarterback early in the second round, they should have just traded up to the first round to secure the fifth-year option.
I understand the question, but I'm going to go offside here. They got the future assets, and they could still get the player at 33 if they wanted him. So if it's in the conversation that Shedeur ends up being that good if they get him, which I don't think they will draft him tonight, then you could always just get the contract done. So I'm fine with not giving up the future assets for a player that it seems as if you didn't really want to take. Or even if it was a different quarterback, then I'm not moving into the first round for Jalen Milroe. I'm not moving into the first round for Jackson Dart if that was the case, or Tyler Shuck. So for me, it would only be Shedeur that I potentially do it for. And they could still get him tonight. So if the Browns plan to draft QB early in the second round, they should have just traded up to the first round and secure that fifth-year option. I would go offside.
Offside.
None of the mock drafts that we saw or talked about had the Panthers going receiver with the 8th pick. But even with Tyler Warren still on the board, that's exactly what Carolina did by drafting Arizona's Tetaroa, don't call me Tet McMillan. Now the pick.
Don't tell his mother if you call him Tet McMillan. Do we have that audio? Just wondering.
I believe we do.
I'll give you about 30 seconds here to stall and try to find it.
We're good.
Now, I haven't heard this yet. I've just been going off what Samter and Stu kind of told me that this was funny during one of the breaks. Go ahead.
You started your presser by telling us that you'd rather go by Nalo or T-Mac. A lot of other people call you Ted. Why specifically do you not want to be referred to as Ted?
So, my mom can be the one to tell you.
Because I need him Tetaroa. So it's either Tetaroa, T-Mac, or I call him Cavello, which is a Samoan name.
What was the last part?
Cavello.
Cavello? Should we just start calling him Cavello McMillan? That's easier than Tetaroa.
T-Mac.
But I think T-Mac, Tom McCarthy, of course, the voice of the Phillies. No, I think of Tracy McGrady. What was the last part? I just said it was easier to say. I can't even remember. Carvello?
Carvello, I believe.
Carvello. Now I'm hungry for some Carvel ice cream, if I'm being honest. Is there a question here? Sorry, I cut you off.
There is no. You're good. The pick It does make sense for the team trying to surround Bryce Young with some more talent after no Carolina receiver had more than 650 yards last season. Onside, offside, you actually like the Panthers pick of McMillan?
I don't hate it. I do like it. I thought that they could have drafted Tyler Warren, but do I like it? Yeah, I like it. Because it gives Bryce Young potentially number one wide receiver, and last year they also got Xavier Legette, so I like doubling down on that to try to help out your young quarterback. So I will go onsides there.
All right, so the Cowboys are going to cowboy. They reached for guard Tyler Booker with the 12th pick, despite him having a second round grade and being considered the second best guard in the draft. Now the Cowboys' biggest need was receiver and running back, but they passed up on Matthew Golden and Amarian Hampton, who would have obviously filled those needs.
And both of those picks would have been early at 12,
Yeah.
if we're being fair. If we're going to say one pick was early, those two picks would have been early too.
Onsides, offsides, the Cowboys made a mistake by taking a guard 12th overall.
I'm not going to say it's a mistake because there's this great misnomer out there because of how great the Cowboys' offensive line used to be, that it's still great. It hasn't been great for the last few years. So they need to beef up that offensive line. I'm good with that, with the 12th overall selection. Yeah, it's a little bit early, but I'm fine with that. I don't think it's a mistake. So I'm actually going to defend the Cowboys. Oh, my God. What world are we living in? Offside.
Offside.
All righty. 888-710-4ISN. 888-710-4476. Let's go to Jay in Nashville. Wants to chime on Shedeur Sanders. Jay, go ahead.
Well, I originally wanted to call in for on Shedeur, but while I was on hold, I'm glad I was on hold because this just hit my phone by some writer named Wes Wisely. And I'll read it word for word. It says the Giants offered the first-round pick this year, their first-round pick next year, and additional picks to the Titans, trying to move up to the number one overall pick to select Cam Ward, but the Titans declined. If that is true, that means the Titans they fired one bad GM and hired another bad GM. Why would you decline that?
So Wes Wisely sounds like a fake name, but with that being said, I will say the report is actually right because Schefter had it on the show last night where it was a first-round swap this year. So Tennessee would go back to 3, the Giants move up to 1, then a future one. I think there was a second involved and future picks as well. So you wanted Tennessee to trade the number one pick?
Yes. Everybody at my job is actually from Nashville. They're all saying the same thing. I've been screaming the same thing for weeks. Trade that first-round pick. What good is a quarterback? You can't even protect him. And then this guy is not even a surefire pick, man. It's almost like Anthony Richards or somebody else. He's got a good arm.
Now, hold on. He's not Anthony Richardson. Here's why. Because he has a lot of good tape. Anthony Richardson never had a lot of consistent good tape. What Cam Ward was able to do, 0-star recruit, incarnate word, then goes to Washington State. I remember talking to him when they were undefeated, like 4-5-0, something like that. And he told me then back in 2023 he could be the best player in the country. And then he goes to Miami this past year and finished in the top 5 of the Heisman Trophy voting and was a finalist. I think there's a lot of things there where the guy could be a really good quarterback. Now, there's still questions if he could be great, but I can't crush Tennessee for taking the quarterback because who knows what the draft class, even though people think it's going to be good next year, who knows what it's going to look like.
Yeah, but Zach, you don't live in Nashville. You don't know how everybody in Nashville has been going through that.
That's fine.
You can't crush them. Wait. You can't crush them for that. But we've seen this over and over again. And then just like you said, you don't know if he's going to be great. You usually take a quarterback the first round because you're like, you know what, that dude's going to be great. You can't say that about this guy.
Yeah, but look how many times we say a quarterback's going to be great and they end up being a bust.
I know, but look, first of all, you could have had this year's first round, next year's first round, the second. So, you know what? You could have used those picks, will and dealt them picks to fill up your offensive line, which sucks. It does. Everybody knows that. And you got so many other holes. And how do you think
you're telling me, Jay, you're telling me that a lot of people in your office today in Nashville, they're annoyed that once this Schefter report came out.
Everybody in Nashville is annoyed. I live here. I'm not making this up. Everybody's annoyed.
Wow, I really thought this was not a controversial draft pick. And I usually trust your opinion, Jay, so I'm not sitting here, I'm going to poo-poo your opinion. I won't do that.
No. You're looking at stuff on TV. I'm on the streets. People are annoyed on this.
So the people on the streets, they're not a fan of Cam Ward is what you're telling me. Jay, on the streets, they don't like Cam Ward.
No, it's not that they don't like Cam Ward. Everybody recognizes that we have other things to take care of.
So they were fine. I mean? So pretty much what you're saying is they were fine with Cam Ward and the pick, but then when it comes out that the Giants were willing to swap ones this year, and the exact Schefter report was at next year's first, and then other picks. We don't know what those other picks were. They would rather take the future picks and then also get a player at 3, which it would have been Cam Ward, and you would have got Abdul Carter probably, and then a future first and punting the quarterback. Okay, that's not a crazy take to me. I have no problem with them taking Cam Ward and rejecting the Giants' offer, but it's not a crazy take.
It's not a crazy take, but I mean, like I said, this is before I even saw this article. Everybody was like, dude, I wish they'd have just went ahead and trade that pick for some more picks because we got other issues. Now, as far as Shedeur and everything, him not going in the first round is not a bad thing because, like, those 2 quarterbacks that just win the first round, hey, good luck to you, buddy, especially Jackson Dart, because we know New York, if you look even remotely like D. Jones, you know what I mean, that they just got rid of,
or Zach Wilson,
that New York crowd is going to be heckling in front of stands like no other. And could you imagine if Shedeur went in there? And New York has problems, too, that they need to fill. If Shedeur would have went in there and he looked like Daniel Jones just the least bit, they'd have been, let me say it in my Zach Gelb's voice, you're an embarrassment. You're horrible. You're horrible. You're not as good as your father. You'll never be after me and your father was. I mean, they'll be talking like that. You're a disaster. They'd have been saying that. Shedeur dodged the bullet by not going to New York. And I really think he's, either Steelers or somebody. Really, my sum of all fears is Jerry Jones picking him up in the second round, bro. That's my sum of all fears.
That would be something. That would definitely be something. Great phone call. Great to hear your voice, Jay, in Nashville, and I appreciate the impersonation. Wes Wisely. Now, the report's actually legit because it was from Schefter. But Wes Wisely, he has an interesting avatar, and then it says contributor for Broadway, Tennessee, which is Broadway Sports Media, NFL draft enthusiast, loyal husband, father, and Titans fan. So maybe it does exist. Who knows? But the report was legit because we heard that during the draft coverage. Let me take one more here. Oh, Anthony in Myrtle Beach. He's a Titans fan. Let's get his opinion on Cam Ward. Ant, what's happening?
What's happening, my brother?
Doing great. So you like Cam Ward, or you like the guys in Nashville right now that Jay was talking to, where he doesn't like them?
Listen, you're talking to Jay in Nashville from Little Caesars. His office is 4 people. Don't believe the hype, all right?
He said he's talking to people in the streets, if we're being honest. It's people in the streets.
People coming out of Little Caesars. We got that. Listen, we got Cam Ward. That's all that matters.
Can I ask you a question? Is that a diss to Jay, or is that where Jay actually works? I'm a little confused.
It's a diss to Jay because he's delusional right now. I don't know what he's doing. He's not representing us. We took the better choice. Look what we had. Mayo, banana dipping, Will Levis. He was what, 5-16 in 2 seasons? Trash. You're not going to build an O-line with that disgrace Levis. Yes, we have problems. We can fix them, but we need a quarterback. We ain't going nowhere with Levis on his back running for his life.
That's amazing.
He fumbles hands. He fumbles a handoff. Get him out of there. What am I paying you for? Get rid of him.
Yeah, and then when he has the football and he's about to get tackled, he throws it up just in the air for the fun of it.
Yeah, please, Lord, help me now. No, he does not represent all of us. I tell you now, Jay and Little Caesars, go in the back, make some ranch sauce, despite count. We got Cam Ward. We're going to fill them holes in, tighten up, have faith.
There we go, Anthony of Myrtle Beach. Man, that's like caller on caller crime right there. And I'm just the middle guy right there. I feel in a weird situation. Usually I'm the one stirring the pot. Anthony comes in throwing haymakers at Jay in Nashville. Oh, my goodness gracious. 2 great phone calls, if I may say so myself. We'll take a break. It is the Zach Gelb Show on the Infinity Sports Network, where our callers want to kill one another.
You're in a 5-minute break. 4 minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. Forty-five seconds remaining. Thirty seconds remaining. Fifteen seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
You're listening to the Zach Gelb Show on the Infinity Sports Network.
Alrighty, let's get to some NFL insiders on the latest with Shedeur Sanders. We were talking about the Adam Schefter stuff, the Ian Rappaport stuff. Now we have a Jonathan Jones cut as well. But let's listen up to all three and play those for you. As you know, Shedeur Sanders fell out of the first round last night. The Cleveland Browns start off the draft in a little bit with the 33rd overall pick. Adam Schefter, what is he hearing about where Shedeur Sanders could land?
I think the Giants obviously preferred Jackson Dart. I think the Browns preferred Jackson Dart. I think the Saints absolutely preferred Jackson Dart. Tyler Shuck is going to figure in there tonight, and I won't be surprised if Tyler Shuck goes ahead of Shedeur Sanders tonight. I think there are not a lot of teams that love the idea of drafting Shedeur, and I think now we're at the point where unless he goes in the third round, number 83, to the Pittsburgh Steelers, who had a discussion about him on the board at number 21, I think we may get a team that we never connected to him. And I don't know what team that is, but I'll give you some examples right now. And again, I'm just hypothesizing. The Seattle Seahawks, the Arizona Cardinals, and, hold on to your head, the Dallas Cowboys.
So let's do this. I hear that, and I'm going to add this up together, and I'm going to come up with a little bit of a conclusion. The Giants are out. They drafted Jackson Dart, right? He then said the Browns and Saints preferred Jackson Dart over Shedeur Sanders. Then he says, hey, Tyler Shuck will probably go before Shedeur Sanders. Wouldn't be surprised if that happens. I'm going to guess right now the Browns pass on a quarterback. I think they're going to take non-quarterbacks at 33 and 36. Then the Saints will take Tyler Shuck. That's going to be my guess. I can't believe I'm effing saying this. Tyler Shuck's going to go in front of Shedeur Sanders. What the pluck? Seriously. I can't believe that. Those words just came out of my mouth on a national radio show. Inconceivable. So going off of what Schefter said, Arizona, Seattle, or the Cowboys. So Seattle just gave a deal to Sam Darnold. I don't think it's crazy, though, if they did take him. Arizona, you got Kyler Murray, but you don't love Kyler Murray. And the Cowboys, maybe that's just Jerry being Jerry or Jerry doing a favor to Dion. Out of those three, I'm going to say Arizona's the most likeliest. I would love Seattle, though. But I'm going to say Arizona. Could you imagine he falls to 83? Stu, yes or no? When the Steelers are on the clock at 83, do you think Shedeur Sanders will be there?
Will he be there?
At 83.
I think he'll be gone before then.
Samter? 83. Will Shedeur be there?
No.
Okay.
He better not be.
Yeah.
Wait, you said he won't be there, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Won't be there, yes.
I'm going to say the Raiders or the Cardinals. I think it'll either be the Raiders or the Cardinals that end up with Shedeur Sanders. All righty, let's hear more. We go from Adam Schefter, to Ian Rappaport.
And if you look at the potential landing spots, still, there aren't that many. I would say the closest and most realistic landing spot for Shedeur Sanders is the Las Vegas Raiders early in the second round. They have Geno Smith as their starter, just signed a new contract, so he's locked in for a couple years. So now there's one spot. If not there, it might actually even be third round to the Steelers, guys.
So I just said the Raiders or the Cardinals. I will now go with the Raiders after hearing Rappaport. Because of the Brady connection, too. Tom Brady loves this guy. John Spytek, who's good, young, up and coming, but he has the job in Las Vegas because of Tom Brady. All righty, let's hear one more. We will now go to Jonathan Jones, what he's hearing on Shedeur Sanders.
I've been calling around with teams, texting a lot last night, well past midnight, calling teams all morning into the afternoon. I don't know that Shedeur Sanders is going to be picked in the first 10 picks of tonight's second round. I don't know. It's really hard for me to find a spot right now. Like, I don't think he's falling to the third round. I'm not at all talking about that. But in talking with folks across the league today, I don't know the natural spot for Shedeur.
So I just said the Raiders or the Cardinals. I think the Browns are passing on him at 33 and 36. Jonathan said he doesn't think he's going in the first 10. So Browns, though, Texans, though, Titans, though. That would be then no Raiders. That would be no Patriots, obviously. Bears, obviously not. And not the Saints. And not the Jets. So then, after you get past the Jets, Cowboys at 44, Rams at 46, Cardinals at 47. Let's see. Probably it there for the second round and the third round. Raiders at 68. If I'm the Raiders, I would take him at 37. I would. Stu, this may be Raiders at 68. That's where this may be.
It's crazy.
Oh, my goodness gracious. And the Cardinals come back up again at 78 before the Steelers are at 83. My, oh, my. Should Shedeur, we used to debate, should Shedeur be the second pick in the draft? And now we're talking about him going in the third round. Man. And I think this is a big win for insiders because yesterday there was a lot of skepticism, including yours truly, with some of these insiders and some of the information, how late it came out. Well, right, Diana Rossini ended up being right. Peter Schrager ended up being right. So now when you get the big guns with Schefter and Rappaport saying things, no offense to Jonathan Jones, but when you get Schefter and Rappaport saying those things, something to keep an eye on. That's the story. It's been the story of the draft, Shedeur Sanders. We'll come on back. We'll tell you winners and losers of the first round. It is Zach Gelb Show on the Infinity Sports Network on this Football Friday. Update time first. Here's Zach.
Infinity Sports Network Sports Flash.
Well, in the end, the top of the first round played out as expected, even if the players drafted didn't always go to the team they were anticipated to go to. The drop of Shedeur Sanders became a reality as the Colorado quarterback has yet to hear his name called entering tonight's round 2. He is still on the board. He handled the snub in stride and said it'll only make him stronger.
All this is of course, fuel to the fire. And under no circumstance, we all know this shouldn't have happened. But we understand we're on the bigger and better things. Tomorrow's the day. We're going to be happy regardless.
Another projected first-round pick is still available in Michigan corner Will Johnson. At Wrigley, John Birdie with the RBI. The Cubs, after a lengthy rain delay, lead the Phillies 1-0 in the bottom half of the third. The son of former NBA star Gilbert Arenas, Elijah, is out of a medically induced coma and is making progress. According to the family, the UCLA commit was involved in a one-car accident yesterday. The Celtics and Magic tip off the night of action. The defending champs are up 2-0, but they could be without Jason Tatum again. He's doubtful with a bruised wrist. The Bucks host the Pacers down 2-0. Lakers and T-Wolves meet Minnesota even at 1. I'm Rich Eck.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. 3 minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. Forty-five seconds remaining. Thirty seconds remaining. Fifteen seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
Hey, this is Howie. And this is Nick from the Backstreet Boys. And you're listening to the Zach Gelb Show. And guess what? Zach is back. All right.
He's live. He's nationwide. This is the Zach Gelb Show.
Oh, my God, we're back again.
Oh, wait, Samter, you were being serious? During the break, Samter goes, oh, Trump put out a statement about Shedeur Sanders. I thought you were kidding. I'm just reading this right now. So Donald Trump tweeted out, what is wrong with NFL owners? Are they stupid? Deion Sanders is a great college football player and was even greater in the NFL. He's also a very good coach, streetwise and smart. Therefore, Shedeur, his quarterback son, has phenomenal genes and is all set for greatness. He should be picked immediately by a team that wants to win. Good luck, Shedeur, and say hello to your wonderful father. I want to be president, let me tell you. Just sit there and fire off tweets about Shedeur Sanders. That's awesome. That's hysterical. Samter told me during the break, he goes, oh, yeah, Trump tweeted about Shedeur Sanders. I'm like, really? And I go, I guess not that surprising. But then I'm coming back from break, and then boom, it pops right up on my timeline. Oh, that's something. All righty, it's time to answer or ask the pros question of the. Oh, first off, 888-710-4ISN. President Donald J. Trump in D.C. Oh, sorry, he hung up. He wanted to chime in on Shedeur Sanders. It's time to answer the Ask the Pros question of the day, brought to you by O'Reilly Auto Parts. Joseph in Cleveland says, Zach, who are the winners and losers of the first round of the NFL draft? You can submit a question by tweeting at INS Sportsnet or at Zach Gelb using the hashtag Ask the Pros. Think O'Reilly Auto Parts for your car care needs. Get guaranteed low prices and excellent customer service from the professional parts people at O'Reilly Auto Parts. You know, let me tell you something. The biggest losers are the NFL owners for passing up on Shedeur with his wonderful father. It's true. All righty, let's get to some winners and losers here. I will start off. My winners. I'll give you one winner right out of the gate. The Indianapolis Colts. Now, you don't have a quarterback. I like Marc Ross's line. Tyler Warren may be the best quarterback on the Colts roster because Anthony Richardson stinks. Daniel Jones stinks. But you look at the rest of that offensive roster, you got Jonathan Taylor. You got Michael Pittman Jr., Pierce is solid, and now you add Tyler Warren, who I think is the 5th best player in the draft, and you get him all the way at 14. It's a good job by the Indianapolis Colts. I'll put them as a winner. Samter, who's your first winner?
I'm going to go with the Atlanta Falcons for getting both Jalen Walker and James Pierce. Jalen Walker, who was a top 10 talent, they got at 15, and James Pierce, who was probably a top 15 talent, slid down a little bit because of character concerns. He got there at 26. They trade up to get him. Those are two impact defensive players that you get in the first round for a Falcons team that spent so much time and money and draft capital on the offense over the past couple of years, focusing on their defense. This could be the piece that the Falcons need.
And also the Falcons are in win-now mode. You have Michael Penix Jr., rookie deal. You know, you have Kirk Cousins still on that contract, but you got Bijan Robinson with the running back, and that's on borrowed time. Drake London. And your division is not obviously impossible. You got to start moving that team in the right direction. So they're aggressive. Okay.
All right. My first winner are the Packers. I actually really like their pick of Matthew Golden. I just thought...
Go, Pack, go! When they announced that pick and then they did the Go, Pack, go for about 5 minutes, that was pretty hype. It was pretty good.
Yeah, but I mean, I think they've needed another receiver for a while, and they didn't really address that in free agency or via trade. So I think getting Golden where they did, a guy who, you know, I think could be nearly as good as McMillan, at least in that same ballpark. He has that blazing speed. I think it's a good move for them.
Here's the thing. I hope he's a number one wide receiver because the Packers right now have like a lot of 1.5s and 2s. I hope this is an actual 1 for Jordan Love, not another 1.5 or a 2. My next winner, Baltimore Ravens, Malachi Starks. This dude is unbelievable. He is sensational. He's phenomenal. Now, I sound like Trump, if I'm being honest. He's got good genes, I hear. But he comes from that Georgia football program. I think we focus more on Mykel Williams and Jalen Walker. Malachi Starks was asked to do a lot at Georgia, and it's the Ravens. And now they pair him up with Kyle Hamilton. Death taxes and the Ravens landing a good defensive player in the draft. So give me the Ravens as a winner. Samter.
I'm going to go with the Philadelphia Eagles. You brought up the Ravens about, you know, always getting a good player fall to them. The Eagles just keep stockpiling like superb, talented, monster SEC guys. First, it was all the Georgia guys, Nakobe Dean and Nolan Smith and Jordan Davis and Jalen Carter. And then for Jahad Campbell to fall down to them at 31. Again, another top 15 ranked player at 31 was awesome.
Honestly, they just start calling the SEC Eagles if we're being right on that. All righty, Stu, who's your last winner?
All right, my last winner, the Chargers. I think drafting Omarion Hampton.
You're taking a running back and you're not doing the Raiders?
Oh, yeah, but I think the value they got in getting a running back there, I'm not going to take a team in the top 5 or 6.
Yeah, that's fair.
I'm trying to think more like later in the draft here.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
But I think drafting Hampton, obviously they signed Najee Harris. I think those two guys, they already drafted Joel last year. Gives Justin Herbert another kind of weapon out of backfield. I really like the pick for them.
Okay, so let's reverse this now and go to losers. Samter shaking his head. You have the Chargers as a loser?
Now I have Stu as the loser. Yeah, the Chargers are a loser.
That's not nice. It's a Friday. Be nice to Stu.
Of course I have the Chargers as a loser. They have so many other issues. First of all, They have no other number 2 wide receiver outside of Ladd McConkey. Quentin Johnson maybe could get there one day. Mike Williams is back there, but he's always hurt. You needed more receiver help. They just signed Najee Harris, who has 4,000-yard rushing seasons. You don't need to take a running back in the first round, as good as Omarion Hampton could be. Khalil Mack has one more year left. He's going to be gone. Derwin James has been hurt a lot. You need defensive help to really help with that side of the ball. They were good on the defensive side, but they're getting older. You need to add some youth there. I didn't understand that pick at all. I know Harbaugh loves to run the ball.
Well, that's why.
That made no sense.
Yeah, that's why. You had Blake Corum and Donovan Edwards at Michigan. Now you have Omarion Hampton, who I think is phenomenal, and also Najee Harris. I think Ladd McConkey ultimately is a number 2 wide receiver, even though he was a number 1 last year. They'll find that wide receiver at some point, and I have no problem getting Omarion Hampton to catch the ball in the backfield as well. So I'm actually Team Stu on that one. I'm not incensed by that. Alrighty, Stu, I guess we'll circle back to you. Who's your biggest loser?
My biggest loser are the Bears. I think that you had Tyler Warren, sitting there right in your lap at 10, and the fact that they drafted Colson Loveland over him, who might be a very good player, but I just don't think he's going to be as good as Warren.
I'm going to use Samter's argument for the Chargers, sort of for the Saints here. They're my first loser. They've invested so much on the offensive line, and they had so many different needs. I thought they could have bypassed the offensive lineman, Kelvin Banks Jr., who's supposed to be really good, and they could have got one of those defensive players, whether it was a Mykel Williams or whether it was a Kenneth Grant or a Jalen Walker. So I didn't love the offensive lineman pick there for the Saints, so they're my first loser. Which way did you already give 2 loser picks, though?
I gave just 1.
Oh, you only gave 1. All right, Samter, go ahead.
I'm going to go with the non-Power 2 conferences in college. Obviously, Power 2 being the Big Ten and the SEC.
Wait, not the American Athletic Conference?
No, they're just on the outside looking in. They're right there. 26 of the 32 first-round picks last night were from the Big Ten or the SEC. 6 picks from every other conference. We had Boise State. We had North Dakota State. We had Miami. That's ridiculous that their 2 conferences took up 90% of the picks. So big losers for all those other conferences.
Stu?
I will say the Cowboys drafting a guard, Tyler Booker, at 12. I think it was just too early to draft a guard.
And my biggest loser of the night is Shedeur Sanders. We went from potentially being the 2nd overall pick, even though everyone talked about him the entire night, to falling out of the first round. And now the biggest story is the draft is about to get underway as well. Where the heck is he going to go in the 2nd round? My prediction right now is the Raiders, but I can't say that confidently. And if it's not the Raiders, then I would go to the Cardinals. If it's not the Cardinals, then who the bleep knows? Maybe he'll fall all the way to 83 to the Pittsburgh Steelers. But right now I'm going to say that it's going to be the Las Vegas Raiders. And still, you'd be happy with that. If you get Ashton, Jeanty, and Shedeur Sanders.
That's a pretty good draft.
Yeah, that's good. We'll do winners and losers on Monday for the whole draft. If the Raiders have Ashton, Jeanty, and Shedeur Sanders, that's a very good Zach Gelb draft. That's going to be a winner for me. And then the Raiders will probably still have 6 wins and be picking in the top 10 once again next year. All right, big thanks to Marc Ross. Big thanks to Samter. Big thanks to Stu. Big thanks to each and every one of you. Good on the phone lines today as well at 888-710-4ISN, 888-710-4476. Appreciate however you listen to us. One of our great local Infinity Sports Network affiliates, Sirius XM Channel 378, the free Odyssey app, or streaming live on YouTube. We'll talk Monday, everybody, at 3 p.m. Eastern, noon Pacific time. We out. Bye-bye. Peace.